Hey guys, Salty Will. I don't usually stream during the middle of the day like this, but as you see right here, we have a live announcement of the Donham Hunt coming up. So I've been playing nothing but Titan Warrior pretty much the whole season. I dabbled into hardcore the last week and 2 weeks, where I played Titan, I played Witch, and I played Mercenary. And of course, I love Titan the best. And I'm not sure what I want to play the next season, but we're gonna find out what's gonna happen because I'm very curious about the what's going on with the different classes, the updates, armor, all that stuff. Because I did a lot of videos covering armor, right? And well, armor's not that good to a lot of people, and it can be better. After playing Path to Phyrexia for a little bit, the Behemoth class actually had armor that would let you do extra damage. And Path to Exile 2 has something similar to that, where they let you do extra damage for like your what's it called? Your block. Like if your shield has like a bunch of block on it. Hey, Mr. Blue. Yeah, starting early because like if you see right now we have the live stream. So I don't know if you have this enabled on your account. But if you have Twitch drops enabled in your account, you get a guillotine drop. I'm exhausted, Tommy, but I'm okay. But yeah, I told my wife, like, hey, we got a GGG announcement going on. Let me get on this, right? So, if you watch on Twitch for 2 hours today, you get a guillotine drop. YouTube's perfectly fine. Just want to let you know that the Twitch is doing a drop for that. Let me go ahead and pull that up so you can see what I'm talking about, because we have another 8 minutes before the announcement goes. So let's go ahead and go to x.com. I'm going to update my X eventually. Let's go to Path to Exile right here. And what we have today, if you watch on Twitch at least, again, I don't care where you watch from, just letting you know. Yeah. So you get the Executioner. Let's turn off the volume right here. But if you watch on Twitch for 2 hours today, up to 10 o'clock tonight, you get the guillotine drop finisher effect. So, there you go. So, that'll be interesting. But how are you guys doing? I mean, I'm tired, of course, right? But how are you guys doing? Yeah, so, Mr. Blue, it's just a finisher effect, right? We got 7 minutes left, so let me go ahead and open up Path to Exile 2. I'll give you an example. Or let's just go to pathtoexile.com. So go to pathtoexile.com right there. Yeah, either one's fine. Just want to let you know. If you go to, it's not available in shops, right? But if you go to microtransactions, finisher effects. So these are just like little effects that appear when you kill somebody, right? Like they have this one right here. Let's turn the volume off. So you can buy like an anvil, drop it on someone from PoE 1. It'll be eventually available in PoE 2. But see, when you kill a rare monster, that's it just drop like that. That's what the guillotine thing is, right? The one I bought, though, I bought the dragon one. I bought the Pillar of Flame one. Pillar of Flame one's really good. Yes, that's only for today, to my knowledge. This one I like a lot. Pillar of Flame. They just light up on fire when you kill them. So if I play a fire-based warrior, I'm going to be using that one right there. Once it's enabled in PoE 2, right? Looks good in PoE 1. But yeah, we still have a few more minutes here. Well, let's see what the drops say. Right here. Yeah, so it says you got to watch it for 2 hours. Drops are enabled from 12 to 10 tonight. I'm not sure how to do all that, but you probably got to do it somewhere in the pathexile.com website. I probably won't be using that finisher effect. There's other finisher effects I think look better in this one. But just letting you know, it's just for today. And I don't know how to show that. I'm at level 79 Behemoth. I actually need to go back to get the level 80, right? Because if I'm not level 80, I can't get the helmet. So I need to do that. How much time we got? Got another 4 minutes. And chat is going so fast right now, it's hard to even see what's going on. Why is everyone typing in login? Or is it just a name that happens? I don't watch live streams too often. But everyone says login. That means it's probably just jumped in. Because I usually watch Twitch from my TV or from my, my stream, right? I don't usually watch with chat on. Yeah, okay. Everyone's saying that, why is everyone spamming login? Okay, maybe I'm not the only one crazy thinking that. They're just trying to keep up with chat right now. Yeah, Mr. Blue, I can see that too. And if you could get your, accounts linked up, it should work just fine. It would actually be good to link your Steam account to your Path Exile account too. Adds extra security too, I believe. Because that way you're getting somehow you had issues on Steam, you still have the data on the GGG website, I believe. All right, let's see what happens. So, anything that you guys are looking forward to on the announcement today? I personally care about armor and Moir a lot, right? I think Mr. Blue does as well. But let's see what they say about the Huntress. Everyone's hyping up the Druid quite a bit, right? So that'd be cool. But I'm also curious how the existing classes get updated too. Right here. But I don't know where it shows you what you get on here. But I have drops enabled. Let me open up my webpage on another page real quick, because I want to make sure I don't share private information, but I have it enabled. Creator dashboard. So I have it enabled right now. If you go to Path Exile right here for drops. See, I got enabled. Finisher's Executioner. Executioner's Finisher. So GTA is only going to yeah, it's going to go to console first, then to PC. And so I got a PS5 as well, right? I'm going to buy Switch 2 this year, probably. One, I just had a kid, right? I want to make sure she learns how to play video games, and that's a good way to start. She's a little young now, being 1 month old. But nonetheless, though, it's going to have both systems. And then Tommy, you can always get a Steam Deck too. I have Steam Deck as well. So when I didn't have like my nice PC I have right now, I had a Steam Deck. I was using that in between, which is really nice because a lot of games work for that. Exclusivity sucks. Where's the volume at?
of Exile 2. Welcome to GGG Live. Well, it's been a little over 3 months since we launched early access, so it's about time for our first major content update. Today, we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt, which launches on April 4th. Twitch drops are enabled on today's livestream, so make sure you follow the instructions below in order to claim your Executioner's Guillotine finisher effect. Now in today's stream, we're going to take you on a deep dive into the new Dawn of the Hunt update. We'll cover a new class, 5 new Ascendancy classes, and huge expansions on character systems like unique items and support gems. After that, it's on to the endgame improvements, including changes to systems, a bunch of new encounters, and lots of other content. We're going to finish up today with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile 2's game directors, myself and Mark, your questions from Twitch chat. Now we have a lot to cover today, so let's get started with a trailer for Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt.
Alright, let's watch the trailer.
We as Mary are guided by the Spirit. It provides prey, shelter, even love. But for me, one day, all that were changed. The Spirit, it showed me something. Something forbidden. And to defend all I loved, I used it. I lost everything that day. But fate weren't finished with me yet.
I don't know how to check past drops, Blue.
The wrongs I've done. I'll do what I must, no matter the cost. I will hear the Spirit once more.
Looks pretty sick. I get fire, wind. Yeah, it looks like wind. Lightning right there. Blood damage. Wait, she's got a mount? She's got a fucking mount. Okay, Rogue Exiles do fights. I'm gonna try her out. 100 plus uniques. Haha, session classes. In-game mechanics, alright. Oh, sick! Alright, I'm excited. Dude, I'm excited about that. That was a cool trailer.
Now, as you can see, in Dawn of the Hunt, we're introducing the first new class since early access to PoE 2, the Huntress. The Huntress is a spear-wielding Asmeri warrior. Born into a society with strict traditions, she was exiled from her homeland after using the power of a skill gem to defend her village. As a dexterous spear user, she specializes in both melee and ranged combat, dashing into and out of battle. Spears have extended range and a short dash, but unlike other melee weapons, you can also throw them. In order to make a hybrid ranged and melee character work, we had to do a lot of thinking.
I want to try her out.
Fun to both enter and exit melee range. The first skill you will get as a Huntress is Whirling Slash. As well as striking in a circle around you, this skill creates a whirlwind that blinds your enemies. Leaving the whirlwind will make it explode. The more Whirling Slash is used, the bigger the whirlwind, and the bigger the explosion. Once you're out of there, you'll want to follow up with something ranged. Whip your spear around to shoot twisters towards your foes. These twisters bounce off walls and can hit enemies.
I haven't played Monk yet.
You can also throw twisters inside a whirlwind to shoot out extra tornadoes that do way more damage.
That looks cool.
In her offhand, the Huntress will usually want to hold a buckler, which allows you to do a new skill, parry. While holding down parry, your character will counterattack any incoming attack from monsters near you, stunning them. In addition, the monsters will take extra attack damage from your follow-up strike. Some specific skills are designed to be used after a parry and have extra effects. Disengage is a skill that does a quick jump back, damaging enemies in front of you, and it can be used to interrupt other actions, like dodge roll. If you use it against a parried enemy though, it causes an explosion and gives you a frenzy charge.
Yeah, but endgame, monks are amazing.
Just be careful.
But yeah.
If you parry too much, you're going to get stunned and possibly killed. You can combine this combo with Whirling Slash. Slash, parry, disengage, and you'll get an explosion from the disengage and the Whirling Slash. The Huntress also has a variety of elemental spear throw attacks. You could use Lightning Spear to bounce lightning between your foes.
That's pretty cool.
Or you could throw explosive spears into the ground. These spears take a while to detonate, but when they do, they'll incinerate anyone caught in the blast.
See, that's like a slower gameplay.
Can also be empowered by frenzy charges. For example, explosive spears will do an even larger explosion and leave fire on the ground.
That's cool.
And these empowered versions can activate even more combos. Using Whirling Slash over ground fire will suck it into the whirlwind, adding fire to the explosion. Using twisters inside a fire whirlwind will shoot out fire tornadoes as well.
See, mixing elements is really fun.
Combos with ice and lightning too. Now, a key aspect of hunting is exhausting your foes by causing blood loss. This skill is Rake, which dashes towards your target and unleashes a deadly slash, opening up wounds on your enemies. Follow up with Disengage and watch them bleed out as they run towards you. On the health bar of monsters, you can see how much blood loss.
I'll still play Warrior, but I'm going to try this class out too.
Take advantage of this. For example, using Blood Hunt will thrust forward and cause a bloody explosion.
They do have another ascension for Warrior though.
The bigger the explosion. If you want to cause bigger bleeds, try out Rapid Assault. The final hit of this multi-hit combo will stick a spear into your enemy for a big bleed. Now, Explosive Spear and Rapid Assault both result in leaving spears behind, either in the ground or in enemies. But there are other skills that leave spears around too, like Storm Lance, that leaves an electrical spear that arcs towards enemies. But what can you do with all these spears? Detonate them, of course. Thunderous Leap will allow you to jump onto and explode any spears either in the ground or in your enemies. Now, as well as hunting animals, the Huntress also has the ability to work with them. While fighting any beast, you have the ability to tame it and use it as a companion.
What?
You can only have one companion at a time.
That's
but
cool.
Keep the mods that were on it. Try to find a rare beast with good mods to take full advantage of your ability to tame them.
You have a pet. That's fucking cool.
Now, this is just the beginning of the Huntress. We've really tried to make the hybrid ranged and melee gameplay work for this class by having a huge amount of synergy between ranged and melee options. There are 22 new skills available for the Huntress. By endgame, you'll be slinging hundreds of insanely powerful spears, sending forth spirit animals and summoning the might of Solaris from the sky. But we still haven't talked about ascendancy classes yet.
Oh, sweet.
What can the Huntress ascend into? Well, the first ascension class you could choose is the Ritualist. The Ritualist has embraced the darker side of his merry traditions.
No, they haven't said what Warrior's getting yet.
Sacrifice and plague. The Corrupted Life Force skill causes all enemies around you to grow volatile blood boils on their skin. When those enemies are slain, the boils will burst, spreading corrupted blood to all enemies around them. The Ritualist also excels in taking advantage of magical trinkets. The unfurled
extra ring slot
allows you to equip an additional ring on a finger around your neck.
That would work really well with that belt.
Mystic Attunement increases the bonuses of all the rings and amulets you have equipped.
Ingenuity. I can't say it right.
One of my favorites.
That worked really well with that.
The Whisper's Ask grants you a new skill, Ritual Sacrifice. Use the skill on the corpses of slain rare monsters to absorb the power in their blood, to give you one of their modifiers for a short time. Specialize further into Ritualistic Sacrifice with As the Whispers Demand, which allows you to perform that skill on yourself instead of a corpse. Cut your own hand, sacrificing some of your own blood to empower yourself. The Amazon Ascension is for those looking to hunt more than just beasts.
Amazon.
Trained as an elite guard to the most important Asmeri elders, the Amazon will use more traditional fighting techniques mastered to perfection. The Predatory Instinct skill will cause you to reveal weaknesses in the defenses of rare and unique enemies, causing you to deal more damage. You can see those weak spots represented on their life bars. While using Elemental Infusion, any charges you consume will infuse your weapon with elemental power, causing any projectile attacks to explode on impact. The critical strike skill is as simple as it sounds. It takes your excess accuracy and gives it to you as critical strike chance.
Oh, cool.
Additionally, you have skills like Mystic Harvest, which allows your elemental damage to leech life, and as Mary Brew, to be able to use either flask to restore both life and mana.
Oh, I like this class.
The two new ascendancies for the Huntress.
Amazon looks
But those
great.
aren't the only ascendancies in Dawn of the Hunt. We've added a new ascension class for 3 of the other existing classes too. First up, for the warriors out there,
Yeah.
we have the Smith of Katava. The warrior is a blacksmith in origin, taught by his father Renly. With this ascension, you can take your smithing skills to new heights by embracing power from the insatiable one himself, Kitava. Smiths of Katava are master blacksmiths and have the ability to forge their weapon, quite literally. Using the Against the Anvil notable skill, you can enhance your weapon with fiery destruction before any battle. After doing so, your attacks will release explosions on hit for maximum devastation. You can also use the power of Kitava to summon an animated copy of your weapon to fight alongside you.
Oh, that's cool.
A great blacksmith can do more than just forging their weapon though. Their armor can be enhanced too. Now you might think this ascendancy class tree looks a little abnormal, and you're right. There's a lot of notable skills all disconnected at the bottom there. By taking this point here, which is free to assign, your character is unable to equip body armors with mods of any kind. So your body armor must be normal. Sounds like a downside, right? Except now in true blacksmith fashion, you get to craft your own body armor by taking those disconnected notables with your points.
Did I
If you
see an
want
extra
your body
damage for
armor
the
to
first
grant
one?
Life, take this notable. If you want
A life.
resistances, take this one. There's so many choices. Think of it like you're crafting your own body armor, just in a more literal sense. Now, let's move on to those who prefer...
Did the first one say more damage? I gotta go back and check that later.
The Mercenary. Alongside the existing Ascension classes, the Gemling Legionnaire and the Witch Hunter, you can now play as the Tactician. The Tactician is a former Blackguard elite. Free from the duties of a Blackguard, he is able to use his training to decimate the monsters of Rayclast and earn a healthy income doing so. This training comes in the form of various skills like suppressing fire.
It seems a little slow though,
all projectiles to
because you have to use your anvil before a fight.
Combined with the right where we want them notable, your
For
pen
endgame,
not
I'm
only stops
thinking.
your enemies from moving, but stops them from performing actions too, similar to freeze. With a soldier's training, the Tactician also works well cooperatively. Using the whoever pays best notable, you can place multiple banners at once. The Watch How We Do It skill gives a portion of your weapon's damage to your allies as well. But if that isn't enough, you can also command your army of off-screen archers to unleash hell and carpet an entire
That's
area
cool.
with arrows. Finally, Witch players will be able to join their legions by becoming undead themselves. In Dawn of the Hunt, we're introducing the Lich Ascension class.
Oh, nice.
The Lich is a master of chaos and curses and could sacrifice her life to enhance her energy shield. The Crystalline Phylactery skill allows you to nominate a jewel in which to contain part of your soul, massively increasing its power. There's just one downside to splitting your soul this way though. If you have no energy shield, your mana costs will shoot up. The Necromantic Conduit skill causes you and allies in your presence to have unholy might, granting extra damage as chaos damage.
These are very unique.
Rupture the Soul makes enemies you curse explode with chaos damage when slain. Dominion over Flesh allows you to apply an additional curse. It's safe to say you'll be the true master of the occult by choosing the Lich class. So Dawn of the Hunt has the Huntress and 5 new Ascension classes, but it doesn't end there. Let's take a look at some of the new skills we've added. Now you may remember we've previously talked about the Raised Spectre skill. It's finally complete, and it will be made available in the upcoming expansion. It can be found in the occult skills on the skill gem crafting panel. Raised Spectre is a skill that allows you to trap the soul of almost any monster in the game,
Oh, you just keep the soul. That's awesome.
which you can then summon in the skill panel. Spectres cost spirit and will revive automatically if they die, but the spirit cost varies based on the power of the monster. You could summon an army of weaker monsters, or a few of the more powerful monsters.
That is very cool.
You can combine them with your existing skeleton minions, or summon exclusively specters. It's all up to you and how you want to customize your army of the undead. Given that there are hundreds upon hundreds of monster variants in Path of Exile 2, it's safe to say you'll be experimenting with this one for a while.
That seems like a lot of
Seeing
fun.
which monsters serve you best. Now let's move on to our next skill. Since we've been talking about summoning undead so much, let's have a change of pace and summon something a little more alive. In Dawn of the Hunt, we're adding the Summon Rower skill. Summon your friendly rower to aid you in combat as a minion.
That is so cool.
You can also mount your rower in combat at any time, allowing you to move at full speed even while shooting arrows or throwing spears. Be wary though, if you take too much damage while riding your mount, you can be knocked off and get overwhelmed. It's worth keeping an eye on the stagger bar, as falling off the mount can mean almost certain death. On the topic of new ways to enhance your character, let's talk about support gems. Support gems are used to modify your skill gems in meaningful and interesting ways. Currently, we feel that a lot of builds have insufficient options here. To alleviate this, we're adding over 100 new support gems.
Oh, wow.
Hema crystals will enable a new kind of bleed build, turning the damage over time you would have done into explosive vile crystals. Alignment is a support gem for bow attacks, which can reward skilled players with good positional skills. Caltrops will allow you to litter the battlefield with
That's a lot, yes.
slowing your foes as you fling spears through their ranks. But there's plenty more for every playstyle, such as Enormity, Unsteady Tempo, Profanity, Retaliate, Syzygy. Yep, that's a real word.
I'm trying to even read these. I'm recording this. I have to go back and watch this later.
Now we've talked about a new class, new
Hey, thanks for the follow.
new skills, and new support gems. But let's not forget about the core
Appreciate
of a true
it.
action RPG, the items. To start with, let's talk about uniques. We're adding over 100 new unique items. This time, we've made sure to add uniques with a focus on mid and end-game tiers to make sure there are more exciting items to find for higher-level characters. Let's look at some examples. Embrace your inner devil with Chernobog's Pillar. It grants you a large amount of fire damage based on your block chance. The Coming Calamity allows you to become a true master of the elements, granting you all 3 Elemental Herald skills without costing any spirit. At the same time, it penalizes enemy resistances. Wastegate is a belt useful for builds using a single resource like Blood Magic or Archmage builds.
I don't know how to get rid of
This
that
belt
owned
uses
bot.
2
I don't
life
use them.
flasks or 2 mana flasks. It's up to you. Now we could go through these all day, but we'll leave most of them for you to discover. Suffice to say though, we want there to be way more cool things to find. Over time, our goal is to add a unique to every single base item type at a minimum, so that you can chance any base in the game. Now, given that we have the Huntress, we have a set of unique spears from early game all the way through to end game as well. One example is Cypher's Spear, which combines bleed and fire in a powerful way. It allows your ignites to be aggravated, dealing substantially more damage. We're also introducing a suite of unique bucklers with some interesting parry mechanics.
Bleed and fire is a fun mix.
Kalgyra's Arc, for example, allows you to parry projectiles from any distance. And we're also adding our first unique charms. Bayra's Anguish will not only protect you from Ignite, but will also emit a devastating fire nova whenever you do get ignited. In sum,
Oh, unique charms.
there's just a ton of new uniques to find. We can't wait to see the weird and broken builds that come out of it. Now we also want to talk about crafting options. In each major update during early access, we'll be continuing to add and improve the options here. We have various new crafting tools that have been added as rewards to many of the different types of new content that we're adding. But for now, I just want to mention the changes to runes. Runes add commonly available mods, but since they only have one tier, flat damage mods tend to get outclassed by endgame. So we've changed runes to have multiple tiers, allowing you to get higher tier mods than before.
Awesome.
Our plan is to significantly expand the number of more specialized mods for crafting using socketables as we add new content over time. And the first new set of those comes from what we're talking about next. In Dawn of the Hunt, we're adding Asmarian Wisps, which can be found throughout both the campaign and the endgame. The Asmari spirit has made itself present in Rayclast, and it appears to be trying to warn, or maybe prepare us for the coming darkness. You will first encounter a manifestation of it in the Grellwood in Act 1, where you'll meet Delwyn, an Asmari hunter who is trying to find out what exactly is causing the spirit to behave this way. As you approach the wisp, it will flee, leading you past monsters. Any monsters it comes into contact with are infused by it, making them more powerful. Each spirit is associated with a specific revered animal within Asmari culture. This one is a wisp of the Great Bear, and grants enemies extra life and stun. The wisp moves faster the closer you are, and as you move away, they slow down to wait for you. but if you get too far away for too long, they'll dissipate and return to the woods. As you continue to chase the wisp, it will find and possess a rare or unique monster, granting it a new powerful ability. Because this was a wisp of the Great Bear, this monster now also has increased life and stun, but on top of that, it will periodically summon a large spectral bear that slams with wild fury. If you're able to defeat this foe, you will be rewarded. For each monster that was infused and killed along the way, the rewards will be increased. Each wisp has its own mechanics. The Wisp of the Winter Owl is a primal wisp that causes enemies to deal extra cold damage, gain energy shield, and release wind vortices on death. When infusing a monster, they will call down large tornadoes to protect their host. The Wisp of the Wild Cat is a vivid wisp that causes effective
fun having new
access to
features like
more
this.
critical strikes and become more evasive. When it infuses a monster, it will summon a barrage of feline spirits that will attempt to tear you limb from limb. If you're lucky, you may even find sacred wisps that can do some pretty crazy things to the monsters they influence. Like the Wisp of the Cunning Fox, which turns normal monsters into magics, magic monsters into rares, and rare monsters into actual bosses. Asmerian Wisps can drop a new set of socketable items that allow you to craft a wide range of
Melee
interesting new
hits.
mods onto your items. Each one may
No
only be
corrupted blood,
used
that's
on a
cool.
specific item slot. As mentioned, the Asmerian Wisps can be encountered throughout the game, but there's also a new endgame map called the Asmeri Ranges, a mountain village where the Asmeri once lived, now overrun with corrupt monsters. This map always has multiple Asmerian Wisps in it, and familiar, yet not quite the same boss fight. Asmerian Wisps can also be further modified by the endgame Atlas tree as well, and by tablets. But I'm not going to be the one talking about those things. In order to cover all the new content in in-game, I'm going to hand things over to Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. There's a ton to talk about with the endgame today, so let's dig right in. Path of Exile 2's early access
see
began
what this
with a
is about.
brand new endgame, and it was clear that it needed a lot of work. After absorbing your feedback, we're ready to make some epic changes. The first thing is, we just need a lot more content. In Dawn of the Hunt, we have made sure to focus on increasing
I
the
love
sheer
breaches.
number of interesting and different encounters you will randomly stumble into as you explore the endgame. And the second goal is to smoothen the progression through maps and reduce the amount of annoying busy work. To start with, let's talk about the new interesting stuff to find. Well, the most obvious thing to add are new maps. As well as the Asmeri Ranges that Jonathan mentioned earlier, Dawn of the Hunt also contains 7 other new maps, all with their own custom encounters. Let's start with this one. The Feral Megaliths map starts off in the wild Ezomite forests. As you progress through the forest, you will find mysterious rune-carved stones that, when touched, surge with energy. After activating all the stones, you can find a grand henge, where all the energy is coalescing. You can then start an encounter. The area darkens, a storm moves in, and a concentration of energy summons a dangerous boss. You must fight and defeat the boss to get its rewards. Once you have defeated it, summon another. And another. And another. And another. You have 10 total waves of boss fights which get incrementally more difficult. If you manage to defeat them, you get full boss rewards, but also opportunities to get new runes. These can only be obtained from this map. The Fractured Lake contains a surreal waterscape with fractured mirror-like objects. As you move around the map, the terrain itself elevates from below, creating the ground you walk on. In this unique map, all the rare monsters are mirrored, so you're always fighting 2 of the same rare at the same time, which can prove quite difficult.
That's
If you
interesting.
manage to overcome that challenge and make it to the end of the map, you'll be presented with a broken mirror, a powerful altar-like object that contains an item within it. The item contained within is a new base type, either an amulet or a ring, that can be crafted to have additional prefixes or suffixes at the cost of the other.
There's a
The
lot in
last
this new
unique map
patch.
we'll show today is one based around the essence mechanic. You enter a crystalline cavern, and you will find a powerful map boss imprisoned in the center. It is surrounded by many rare monsters, also imprisoned in essences. By freeing and defeating the rare monsters, the essence they held will be upgraded to a greater essence, and be added to the imprisoned map boss. How brave are you? How many essences will you add to the
Alright, a
boss?
lot of creators now.
Overdo it, and you might lose everything. Underdo it, and you might regret it. It's your choice. Speaking of essences, alongside visual improvements, you're now able to apply Vaal Orbs to corrupt the essences with a range of unpredictable outcomes. It could increase the number of essences, re-roll all the essences to the same type, or even upgrade the essences to greater essences. What if they're already greater essences? Well, it can upgrade those too. We have 4 new corrupted essences. Essence of Hysteria, Delirium, Horror, and Insanity. Each corrupted essence has its own interesting combat mechanics. For example, the essence of Insanity causes you to question even your own mind, as monsters split into shadowy clones, and you must locate the real one before a devastating icy explosion freezes everything around it.
Huh.
Each of these has their own crafting outcomes. The essence of Insanity can be applied to a belt. It adds a mod that will ensure the next Vaal Orb used on the belt will guarantee adding 2 enchantments.
That's cool. Whoa. So you just get a lot more stuff on it.
Essences in the unique map can also be corrupted too, if you're willing to risk it. It's worth noting we have also added 10 extra Atlas passive points you can earn by completing 5 different unique maps. Now, new maps are just the beginning. We had a goal where we wanted to make sure you were constantly finding exciting new content, and that it could be lurking around any corner. So, we have added a bunch of new things that you could stumble into in any map you run. On your travels, you will sometimes encounter rogue exiles. Others like you who have been exiled and are openly hostile. Some are malicious, some are mad, while others are simply fiends for loot. They will challenge you, a fight to the death. They use the same skills available to players, and even the same items. They aren't just dressed up in those items, they're actually using them. It's going to feel like a true player versus player situation. Of course, if you are able to slay these exiles, those items will all drop on the ground. So if you encounter an exile using a powerful or valuable unique item, which you can see displayed under their life bar, you want to be damn sure you kill them. Because if they kill you and your party, they'll portal out, taking their items with them. Every fight will feel completely different depending on the items they come equipped with. These exiles are much smarter than your regular monsters.
That's a fun way to have PvP-like combat without actual PvP.
Avoid your abilities with smart pathfinding, smart targeting, and much more action-packed gameplay. Fortunately, they're like you, and they're not super durable. Unless, of course, they're wearing uniques like Helm's Heart, in which case, expect a longer battle. There are 12 different rogue exiles you can find, each with their own skills and personalities. Some may insult you, while others may admire your honor in combat. Another encounter you might stumble onto in Dawn of the Hunt are one of 4 new unique strongboxes. Strongboxes are chests with modifiers.
I haven't been a fan of strongboxes yet.
They activate traps and spawn waves of monsters that you must defeat to access the loot. Let's take a look at 2 of the new unique boxes that are harder to find and behave just a little bit differently. The Ogham's Legacy Strongbox has a corpse splayed out in front of the rune-carved stone. Upon interacting with the stone, you activate Forbidden Ezomite magic, which revives the monster as a powerful rare. The Strongbox comes with a modifier which determines how many times it will revive that rare. Each time you defeat the monstrosity, the Strongbox revives it again, adding an extra modifier to the monster. With each resurrection, it becomes more difficult, but also more rewarding. This strongbox is infused with thaumaturgy from ancient Vaal technology. Eshel's Torment has a powerful artifact inside, and is guarded by chaos itself. Defeating the monsters will grant you a unique item, with a specific corrupted outcome. You'll have to find the other 2 for yourself to see what they do.
Cool.
Now,
let's talk
about the introduction to the endgame. Upon starting the endgame, Doriani tasks you with cleansing corruption to help restore the land. However, in practice, the quest objective just sent you on a grind to clear 15 maps. We wanted to make the quest to unlock your Atlas passives much more interesting. Now, Doriani is tasking you with a more specific objective. On the Atlas, you will find areas of corruption caused by the beast. In the center of each one, you will find a corrupted nexus. the source of the affliction. In the areas leading up to the Nexus, you will notice that corruption spills out from slain enemies and amalgamates into powerful monsters. Corrupted maps existed on the Atlas before, but we've done significant work on improving these monsters. We've also done a full pass on the modifiers on these maps to make them more interesting and more rewarding. Once you reach the Nexus, you will have a new task: cleanse the source of corruption. When you defeat the last rare in those maps, they will spawn one of 3 terrifying bosses, amalgamations of corruption itself. After defeating that boss, Doriani will come and cleanse the corruption for good. As the remains of the boss are purged of corruption, it coalesces into raw crystallized power, which you can use to gain points for your Atlas passive skill tree.
Alright.
The upgrade system that allows you to add and enhance content in your maps. We didn't stop there though. When you complete a corrupted Nexus, all of the remaining surrounding corrupted maps will become cleansed maps. Cleansed maps also have new monsters, a new boss, and their own set of modifiers and rewards, including finding fracturing orbs by slaying cleansed enemies.
So that's a lot of variety, which is cool.
These orbs can be used in crafting on a rare item to cause one of its modifiers to become fractured. A fractured modifier is one that cannot be modified by any means. You are able to freely modify the item, ensuring the fractured modifier will never change. If you get the right item with the right mod, it can prove to be a very powerful crafting base indeed. You must now choose. Do you complete all the corrupted maps and then the Nexus? Or maybe you beeline to the Nexus, complete it, and do all the remaining maps cleansed. Both have rewards to entice you and challenges to assess. Now, let's have a talk about towers. One thing we've had a lot of feedback on is the busy work around running towers and managing your tablets. The first change we've made here is that we have reduced the number of towers drastically, so there are now 1/3 as many as before, but we've made them much more powerful. To start with, tablets now inherently add twice as many mechanics, but that's not all. Running higher tier maps and towers now increases the number of mechanics applied by tablets. By tier 15, the bonuses double, allowing a single tablet to now add 4 times as many mechanics as before. So
yeah, Blacksmith seems cool.
We're running far fewer towers, dealing with fewer tablets, and affecting even more maps than before. But because there are fewer towers overlapping with each other, you won't get as many opportunities to stack different tablets. In order to solve this, we've made it so that each tower can consume up to 3 tablets at once. You always get 1 slot on completing the tower, but if you can complete a tower with more mods on the Waystone, you can unlock a 2nd or 3rd slot.
That's
Overall, this allows for even more juicing from towers, while drastically reducing the amount of busy work you have to do. On top of that, towers are much more interesting maps because they can now spawn with all mechanics, including bosses. Each tower map has a new boss. Let's take a look at a couple here. The boss fight of the Alpine Ridge map has 2 powerful witches contesting for territory. One witch has an affinity for ice, the other fire. Who will win? Hopefully neither.
It's
the
cool,
boss
double
of the
fight.
Sinking Spire map is a remnant of the Val that has been charged with the lightning. It uses a full suite of lightning abilities, but be careful. If any of them hit the surrounding constructs, they will power up. Another thing that we've seen a lot of feedback about is sustaining Waystones. As we looked into it, we realized that the people who couldn't sustain Waystones were dying a lot more than we had expected, and that made us realize something. During the campaign, the expectation is that you can die multiple times in order to learn how to overcome challenges. You are able to learn how the monsters behave, adapt to their skills, and eventually overcome them. But as soon as you get to the endgame, you are effectively no longer allowed to die if you want to sustain Waystones. By the time you are getting towards the end of endgame, we want you to have to be careful not to die. But it certainly shouldn't be that we have such a sudden shift as you run your first maps. The first change we're making is you can now respawn and return to a map if you die.
Alright, that's cool.
Continuing from where you left off. When you start the endgame, you get up to 6 total attempts per map. As you add more modifiers to a Waystone, the number of respawns goes down.
Makes sense.
This means that as you get to the point that you're running every waystone as a rare, you will have to be more careful.
What about when you're doing co-op though? There's only
In
one portal.
parties, everyone gets to respawn that number of times. But we still think it's important that you can kill a boss in one go. In order to allow that to happen, we've made a change so that once you start the boss fight, it changes over to the same respawning system we use for pinnacle bosses. This means that the map owner can choose to respawn everyone at the same time. Another complaint
I like this
we've seen
change.
a lot of is players not wanting to do the pinnacle content because of the experience penalty from dying. A change we've made here is that all pinnacle content now no longer grants experience, but also no longer removes experience on death either.
I lost 60% experience once, or 50%
Dawn of the
experience
Hunt
once doing
also
that.
brings the first batch of Twilight Order reliquary keys from the early access supporter packs. These keys contain items selected by our supporters. They can contain any unique item found in Path of Exile 2. If the selected item is a pinnacle boss drop, then only special keys dropped by this content will be able to provide these items. For example, Hand of Wisdom in action can only come from a key dropped by Zesht. We're also making a change that allows pinnacle boss uniques to drop at any difficulty. Rarer uniques will be rarer at lower difficulties, but still possible to find.
That's cool.
This applies to the drop charges for the reliquary keys from this content as well. We spoke about towers and tablets earlier, but we have also added a suite of unique tablets. Each of these adds crazy interactions to the maps influenced by it. For example, this unique tablet allows you to run any map in a tower's radius.
There's so much new things coming out. It's really awesome.
Which can be quite useful for jumping gaps and traveling around your atlas. And this tablet causes all runic monsters spawned during expedition encounters to be duplicated, and weakens all expedition monsters that emerge from the ground. The Atlas tree has also been expanded, and you can find many of the new mechanics there, and improvements to existing ones too. Now through this livestream we have mentioned quite a few new crafting options that we've added. New runes, corrupted essences,
Update comes out on
friendship
April
bulbs,
4th.
and jewelry crafting bases. But we did have just
I'm
one
not sure if the
more
game's up or
crafting
not
system
right
to talk
now,
about.
but
Recombination.
the update comes out next week.
Expedition was the only in-game mechanic that was lacking a crafting system, so that needed to change. Recombination is a mechanic that might be familiar to some players. It allows you to merge two items together, hoping to get the best elements of each on a single new item. This new
The servers
crafting
might be
method
down though right now
allows you to
too,
complete
Danny.
your first expedition.
That could be another reason
and
why.
requires artifacts found during expeditions to
Turn this
fuel
down a little
it.
bit.
The rarer the mods on the item you are combining, the more expensive the cost. That wraps up all the major
After the stream's over, I'll see if the game's working.
with all the system changes and new
Then I
content,
can probably help you out a
we
little
can't
bit.
wait to get in there, start blasting maps, and obliterating monsters. There is one more thing we wanted to clarify before we move on, which is that all the content we've talked about today will be made available in the existing early access leagues, so you can play your existing characters. However, there will be new leagues made for those who wish to start in a fresh economy. It is recommended to start over and get the full new experience in the Dawn of the Hunt leagues. For all our existing early access players, we're really looking forward to joining you playing in this new update. For those who don't already have access and are interested in playing Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt, you are able to at any time purchase an early access supporter pack at www.pathofexile2.com.
I'll be giving out 5 keys
The Paladin and
this
Panic
week as
supporter
well.
packs
I have 5
are
extra keys to give
available
out.
Purchase in Path of Exile 2 and contain 6 microtransactions each and the full pack's face value in points. All the microtransactions contained within these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. Thank you so much for your ongoing
That makes sense.
support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. With release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information.
Well, Danny, I bought them all, but I give away keys to help the stream out. It's not cheap
On
though.
release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and many new
I spent over
microtransactions,
$600 in this game.
including Path of Exile 2's first alternate skill effects. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments.
Gotta have my character look fancy when
We're
I
looking
stream and
forward
make
to playing
content.
the Huntress, trying new builds, and exploring the new endgame next week.
It's not needed though.
We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
But Danny, I recommend you join my Discord. It's in my YouTube description. And if you have issues, I can help you troubleshoot that later. I'm not sure what those keys do exactly from the packs. But the keys I have personally, I have for the game to, like, you just download it, essentially. It turns back up.
Exceeding my expectations, particularly in crafting. But on that note, we're joined here by Jonathan and Mark to talk about all that we've seen today and more in the future of Exile 2. And you had an update about the recombination.
Yes, that's right.
though.
That's right. Yeah, so we actually last night had a bit of a design.
Yeah, Danny, join my Discord, and then you get me as a friend in game once it works. Let me this right here.
We actually made quite a big change to it, which wasn't reflected in that video, obviously, which is basically that we sort of wanted to give a bit more control.
You got me in game. I have a guild too, very small, but you can join that. I can help you out.
The fact that recombinations is something that like kind of matters a lot for really, really ultra endgame players, but it wasn't something that was really mattering a lot for like the people who effectively got access to the feature at the start. So we've actually changed it now so that the way it works is that you pick which mods you want on the each item from each item. And then it gives you a percentage chance of success based on the number you pick. So if you pick just like one from one and one from the other, then the chance is much, much higher. But if you pick if you pick 6 mods, it'll become practically impossible. So effectively, like the more you're wanting to design the item, the less of a chance of actually having success. So it means that if you just want to get like a mod, if you want to get an item with like, okay, these 2 mods that I found off the ground, that's
Yeah, I'll check the game after this.
Want to get an item,
See if I'm able to get it working.
all of them, then very hard. So we think that's a much better design because it means you can kind of use the recombinators actually become something that you can use even from the first point you get them. But there's still this kind of end game, like for perfect stuff, you might still be able to do it with more. It is kind of balanced though, so that like if you pick literally all 6, then it's going to be like incredibly low to the point of like don't even try that. But like 4 mods might be a good thing to sort of be striving for, that kind of thing, and then exalt the other 2, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the new design of that. So hopefully that'll be in by the time 0.2 comes out. We've kind of got a plan for doing that. Yeah, like I think it's a much better design than what we had before for recombinators.
If it's not there for 0.2, it'll be as
very
soon as
soon.
it can afterwards.
Very
But
soon.
yeah, spur of the moment, night before the live stream design sessions.
Yeah.
But
Been a few of those.
increased player agency and visibility into the success result is just a win. And honestly, took way too long to, get to the point of us actually going, "Oh, this is just straight up better to have observability into that and the freedom of choice." So.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You guys watching right now, if you haven't done so, I appreciate the like.
Both really high end,
follow and all that stuff.
Intended for
Join my
both
Discord,
services,
add me
even
as a friend in
on Steam.
game,
It seems
all
super
that.
intuitive.
Yes. You just pick what you
selecting
want.
the mods you want.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So it does sound like it's a little bit of a nerf for the very high end of crafting, though. Like,
It might end up being, but I'm not like it sort of depends on how the numbers come out. Like because we only just designed this, we need to still work out like exactly how the numbers end up looking. But I mean, look, we have to make sure. Obviously, whenever we're designing any crafting system, we have to be really sure that we're not like screwing over finding stuff on the ground. So you have to sort of have that balance, and that's so that kind of informs everything we do with crafting usually.
One difference here, though, of course, is if the success chance fails, both
item's just
both
deleted,
items
yeah.
are destroyed as opposed to always keeping one.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So it's
Whether
basically
or
percent
not
chance
that's
for success, and if it fails, item's gone. So
What,
yeah.
Roughly, what do you think you try to pitch just choosing 2 mods at? Like,
It depends on what mods you're selecting, but I'm kind of thinking kind of like 35%-ish kind of thing for like 2 normal mods, that kind of thing.
For them both
like
to
for them
go
both,
over?
yeah, for them both. For if you pick 2,
Yeah.
and then but we'll
it
see.
kind of depends. Again,
It kind of depends. We'll see how we have to do
higher
some
tier
math.
mods are rare, and
Yeah, exactly. So it sort of
it
depends on the
also
situation.
the other thing is it's going to now have a fixed cost, so it's not going to
Yeah. And the idea is
dollar
like
based on
and the idea is like doing a single expedition should be enough to do a recombination. So you're going to be doing them like relatively often as you're doing expeditions.
So is the part of Expedition where you get to craft with the NPCs still a thing then? Now that you're adding this?
Yeah, I mean you've still got that whole mechanic, and like so effectively it's competing for the artifacts.
Yeah.
Between recombination versus buying things from that other way.
So is there some buffs intended for that then to make it more competitive?
Not
with-
yet. It definitely needs some love in the future, but not at this time.
Yeah.
Exhibition's
Seems
not
the
that
systems
no love
can
there.
kind of go
Okay.
hand in hand, where one is giving you items that you can then potentially recombinate.
That is also true. You can use the ingredients of one in the other, or the outcome of one as an ingredient in another.
Cool. We'll talk more about crafting a little bit later on for sure, because there was a lot announced there, which I'm quite excited about. Definitely exceeded my predictions for what you'd be adding in terms of crafting. But firstly, though, just a quick clarification on the league. So there's not going to be a wipe for the new players joining us.
Right.
If you were playing on a character, you can still keep playing on a character. But a lot of long-term Path of Exile players know the importance of playing on a fresh start, and that's also really important for you guys as well.
For sure, yeah. I mean, basically, if we don't have like any character that's come from before, you're just not gonna because the balance is so different and because so many things have changed. There's like no point in even listening to feedback for someone who's playing in the old league. Like it really has to be that you're doing the fresh start, and we're sort of seeing how things go in the new economy. So like we were really sort of it was kind of an interesting decision about whether or not we should make it so that all the content is exclusive, or rather like what
Thank you
amount
for the
of content
follow.
would be exclusive to the league versus not. And
Abby,
the issue that we
appreciate
had
it.
Was that so I mean like a league means something in Path of Exile. In order for something to rise to the level of a league, it needs like a certain amount of features. And the original thing we were thinking about doing that way would be the Asmeri and Wisps, but there wasn't quite like the kind of like meta mechanics and stuff with that. So like we didn't quite rise to the level of feeling like it deserved to be a challenge league. And at the same time, we've also got a lot of new players playing Path of Exile 2, never played Path of Exile before. So we were a little bit we kind of were deciding like, okay, should we should we make them exclusive or not? We sort of decided, you know what, for this one we're not going to. And then what we'll probably try and do is for the next league that we do, we'll actually make it a proper challenge league with like its own exclusive mechanic and so on. But yeah, it's a little bit funny because like in early access is a bit of a different situation with different and so yeah, we'll sort of see how this goes anyway. But certainly I would encourage everyone just like start again on a new character. I think you'll have a much better time because obviously if there's structural changes to the passive tree. It's like if you log in with your character, you're going to have like your tree's going to get reset. You have to
The audio syncs all off.
There's things like that are going to happen that mean that and also just balance changes, right? Like huge numbers of them. So you're going to have a better time playing from the start.
That's it. And speaking of the Huntress then, so we saw initial Huntress quite some time ago now and had some hands-on time with it and things, but I certainly, having played that before and played it now recently, the Huntress has changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
So what was the, how hard was it to get it ready for release? What was kind of the key there?
I mean, it's funny because class design is one of those things where every time you add something, it can make you reevaluate everything else, which is why it's so hard to predict like how long a class will take. So like it changed a lot since the last time we had we were showing Huntress. And honestly, like, it's like while there are some skills that you'll still see, like it just plays completely different. And I mean, whenever we're looking in like how we're going to design something like this, it really comes down to like what is it's special about the character class. Like how can we double down on that to make sure it feels different? So with the Huntress, you've obviously got spears as a base type. The key difference between a spear and any other weapon type is that you can both use them at melee and you can also use them at range. You can throw them. And so because of that, we really were just really trying to incentivize everything possible so that you use both of those things. And action RPG players, they generally speaking, the balance can often be such that you only really want to do one thing and do that one thing well. So trying to incentivize the kind of ranged and melee is, quite a thing. And I mean, the way we do it effectively is try to make sure that like there are combo chains where, a ranged thing can combo with something that's melee and a melee thing can combo with something that's ranged, and then also give you good abilities to move between the two states.
I really want to try out the
So that
Huntress.
kinda
It
means
looks like
that
a
you
lot
end
of
up with a
fun.
very, agile character, like you're constantly
I'm a warrior
moving,
at heart.
backwards and forwards and kind of moving around. And I would say that given that it's the Dex character, that it's good that it feels that way, that it feels the most agile of all of the melee character classes. That's been a really good one. But I mean, look, there are, in terms of changes, I mean, look, there are just changes all the time. Like the frenzy charge thing was like relatively late in development. Like there's like quite a lot of things going on that just meant that the field kept on evolving. And another big one, of course, was parry. I honestly was very skeptical of working, and Mark, Mark was the one who saved it. Honestly, I was like, you know what? There was like 3 times I think where I was like, you know what? I don't think it's going to work. And then you were like, okay, I think we're gonna save this.
I was like, give me a week.
Yeah, exactly. And it works completely differently for most games, because in most games, obviously, with parrying, the way that works is that you have to time to push the block button at exactly the right time, but that's just something that just wouldn't work in our combat system, because you're often packs of monsters. It's just like you don't really have the ability to read combat in that way in our game, and at the same time we need to make something where there's going to be if a single monster in a pack hits you, you need to be able to respond to that with something that's going to you need to be able to respond in a way where you don't just then immediately get hit by a bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
So having it so that the parry, it always parries, but it's then taking advantage.
I think it's just
of
a
what the
Huntress.
parry does to the monster by following up with something that's going to give you an explosion or something like that to kind of deal with the pack. That's something that sort of allows that counter gameplay to work in our game. So you've
But
kind of got
not
two
quite sure.
primary parry follow-ups. You've got the frenzy charge one, which dashes back.
Yeah,
which
it's
means
the
that
Huntress
you don't
only.
have to worry about
Sounds like.
the monsters hitting you. And then you've also got the one that there's another one which I don't believe we showed there, which called Fangs of Frost, which does a counter where you attack with ice, which freezes the pack. So it's another way to so in both cases you've kind of got something that's kind of dealing with the fact that you've got all these monsters around you, and that was kind of the biggest challenge I think that we had with that mechanic.
Yeah, I'll also make note of there was a support gem I found that you can attach to any attack that allows you to follow up parry to generate a frenzy charge too, so it doesn't even have to be the backflip.
Yeah,
You
in
can
that case. Yeah, there's other...
create your own parry.
Yep, and then of course there's always Sniper's Mark, and there's there's a skill that does give you a guaranteed crit, so that's a potential option as well. You've got a few different ways to generate.
I can't wait to see all the new skill
Guarantees
gems.
a light stun.
Yeah.
You always get that small window to actually engage or do a thing before before you're under danger again.
And I'll tell you this, I am one of those players who never parry, right? In any game ever, because I can never do it. It's always just so frustrating. So I was very skeptical of that, but it feels really good. You've both managed to make it something that's easy to do, because you can just hold the button down and parry at any time. There's no...
So Dana, you're playing on console, you said?
But at the same time, you've incentivized making it so that you do want to still try and time it as best you can personally. How have you done that? How have you made it so that you actually still want to kind of play it skillfully?
Well, I mean, ultimately...
You guys try restarting your console too.
Parry buttons when you're attacking,
okay.
Right?
Exactly.
So you still want to kind of minimize the window, but at the same time, the timing is just not not as bad. But the nice thing as well is that once you do successfully parry, it's very obvious. You get the sound, you get the token on the monster. It's very chunky.
Yeah.
So it means it's very obvious when you're supposed to counterattack. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. I think that it came out really well. And honestly, one of the funny things about it is that it immediately made me realize how bad shields are in comparison, which is why we're also trying to ninja in a change to how shields work at the last minute, which we'll see if it makes it into 020. I was playing around with it last night.
This was 8 p.m. last night.
Yeah, 8 p.m. last night, exactly. I was
messing with this.
Yeah, messing around with it. And I won't talk too much about how that's going to work, but effectively we want to make shields, shields better as well, and kind of build something.
Hopefully it works soon.
To make them more interesting. So that's the plan there. We'll see if it makes it for 020.
Yeah, following that kind of similar design space idea of being able to do a bit more with it.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
that feed into other skills and things like that as well.
100%.
There's a lot of room there to play with.
Yeah.
So we talked about Huntress being very, very combo heavy, and she has the deepest combo chains out of anyone so far, even exceeding things you can do with Monk. You got 3-4 different skills deep of things you can start to synergize together. So how do you balance? How do you make that fun? Firstly, rather than onerous, for example.
Well, I mean, I guess there's a few things. One of them is it just has to be very readable and understandable when, I
don't know if I can rewind it, Mr. Blue.
The other thing that's really to our advantage here is reusing.
But
skills
I'll make a recap video after this is done.
So you can make a deeper combo chain without requiring.
Oh, I can probably rewatch it on this. Yeah.
Many skills in order to do it.
We'll check it
the
out.
way that Whirling Slash and Tornadoes interact with ground effects.
We'll try to do
and
it.
all that stuff sort of means that you're using Whirling Slash multiple times as part of the same combo chain, and that's an idea I think that I'd like to try and explore more, because I think that it is a cool way to kind of extend the combo chain. Yeah, as I said, without.
If not, I plan on making a
things involved,
summary video today.
It makes it a lot cooler. So yeah, I'll think a bit more about how we can apply that to other classes and other skills. But yeah, it's worked out really well here.
Yeah, it's a bit of a loose create your own combo system in a way. Obviously there's intended combos, but because it's interacting with something that's fundamental like ground effects. You're able to combo with anything that creates a ground effect. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like I added shocked ground to the backflip skill, or I got a companion pet that had a shocked ground aura.
Nice.
As like, so that was just there, and that was available all the time.
I mean, it's funny as well because it also works on just enemy ground effects, and so sometimes you can just get a damage boost because the rare just happen to be dropping ground fire or something. So that's kind of fun. But it's been it's just a lot of fun to play. You know, the first time I ran into that was actually in the graveyard where there's these like chests that like pop open with fire, and like I was using tornadoes, and then one of them just randomly turned into a fire tornado, and I'm like, oh, what happened there? Oh, yeah, sweet. It was just like a really cool moment where it just sort of interacted with the environment, which was really fun.
It always feels like you're getting a little bit of something extra for free when you're taking advantage of the enemy effects, or a boss fight that just has burning ground everywhere. It's like, sweet. So how do you go about balancing, though, when you have a class that has deeper combos and kind of somewhat requires you to do a bit more versus a class or a skill or a build that is just bonk?
I mean, you have to ultimately make the combos matter, right? And I think actually that's one of those things that we're trying to really focus on with the balance changes we're doing in Dawn of the Hunt more generally, is making sure that even, like, I think it's the case where some of the combo gameplay kind of degenerates a little bit by end game in a way that, like, I want to make sure it still feels rewarded. And so we were sort of doing various checks, recently about, like as a random example, right? Like, so on the Mercenary, we found that doing, but when you get to end game, doing armor break, what's it called? The armor piercing that causes armor break, followed with high velocity rounds, is just worse than just using high velocity rounds. And that's like really bad, right? Like we have to make sure that we're improving that stuff. So it's like sometimes you just get these things where like the balance by end game kind of degenerates in a way that that doesn't support the combo anymore. And so we have to make sure that when we're looking at buffing things, that we're like making sure that when we're doing it, it's to support the fact that using more things is actually a good thing. We're really trying to make sure that we're bringing some of that, improving some of that stuff as well as we're making the balance changes.
So do you have like a baseline there of where like the really simplest build should be, the build that just bonks? Like,
I mean, you mean in terms of damage or in terms of like what it does? You know, I mean,
that's too bad, Danny. I hope it works soon.
You'd be able to build that way. But
players have to do a combo.
I mean,
like, for people who don't want
ultimately,
to,
you never have to, right? But it sort of what it means is that you are sacrificing something. And look, the ideal situation is that like you don't feel like you have to do combos. You feel like you want to do combos, right? Like, because you feel rewarded for them. It's like should feel like a fun.
They haven't talked too much about balance change yet. Armor. I haven't heard anything about armor yet. Updates.
I think the Huntress is doing that very well. It must have been like extremely hard because I don't think I've ever seen this. Like,
I want to hear if they change armor.
Done well.
Right. Well, I mean, it does require a lot of discipline, and it means that a lot of skills like end up on the cutting room floor because you try them out and then you realize, well, if this is in the game, then that's the only thing I'm ever going to do. So you got to be really careful about that stuff.
Certainly, playing the Huntress now makes me go back and look at the other classes and be like, we need to up that the level there, and we missed the mark a little bit now because this is better. And who's to say the next class won't even be better and make us question even this? But
but that's the way it is with class design.
That's what he says when we like literally when you make a new class, you question everything. He's not understating the level of questioning everything.
Yeah, do you see like going back to the monk at some point and looking for more like opportunities to link skills together with?
I mean, we haven't got to the full skill set for any class yet already, and we need to add more pieces for a lot.
I think there's at least 4 skills that were designed and enhanced in the monk currently.
Range are the same. There was extra poison skills. It was intended to be more chaos dots. There's all kinds of stuff. We have to obviously at some point fill all that in. Hard to say when, but. We're going to try and incrementally get it, like much like how Ray Spectre and I mean the mount works with the Huntress, but we were like, let's give something for the Ranger this time. Let's give something for the Summoners out there this time, and so we're just going to keep filling in those gaps over time.
And it feels like you're getting better at class and skill design as you go too. So I imagine the last class you're going to release is going to be like amazing. You'll look back at the first ones and be like, ooh.
Possibly.
Well, that is the worry. But whatever.
But look, with that means we've got another round of going through everything and improving stuff again, right? So,
and that will never end.
That's it. So with the parry came the kind of looking at the player getting stunned, in particular player heavy stun. So it's always hard to tell players like, hey, we're going to do something to you and it's going to be a bad thing. You're not going to like this.
Well, the funny thing,
let's talk about why.
there's a few things like that actually, because so I mean, for a start, like we needed the downside of parry to be, like that. Yeah, you get stunned out of it. But then when we're looking at how long, like we're like, okay, right now, it's true with shield block as well, by the way.
Yeah, shield block
if you
does the
get
same
stunned
thing.
out of that, the amount of time that you get stunned out for is actually not even enough time for most bosses to do a follow-up attack on you. And it's like, well, where's the downside if it doesn't even have enough time? So we did have to extend that out a little bit, and it makes you a little bit more careful.
I never
just
use
to
active
warn
shield
people,
block on
there's a
Warrior,
few other
though.
things like we lowered what's it called, the I can't remember the name of that thing now, the thing that makes you more easy to be elemental statuses apply to you. Ailment threshold. That's right, ailment threshold. Yeah. So we lowered ailment threshold to actually make it so the player has those mechanics happen more to them, right? Because like right now through campaign, like you barely get frozen or burning or shocked, really, to be honest. Yeah. So there's stuff like that we've had to do to kind of make sure that that, because if you don't have that stuff actually happen to you, then there's no point in mitigating it. And it's like things like charms were like not very useful because those mechanics weren't happening to you. There's stuff like that, right? The downsides do actually matter in order to make it so that that you then there's other things you can do to sort of bypass those downsides. So yeah, that's kind of one of those things that we just have to make sure is there.
I did always find it a little bit strange that like I was able to count the number of times I was frozen in the campaign on one finger.
For sure. For sure. But
and it's always by those vile ghosts.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna type in armor update.
So expect a little bit more, a little bit more danger from the stun. I definitely got a couple times to getting heavy stun.
Someone else set that into.
So that's mostly occurring if you're like doing bad blocking or parrying. But can it also occur just from like taking a really big hit or something?
Nope. At least we've discussed that. We've gone through a whole bunch of different should certain boss abilities heavy stun you, and if you speak into enough stun threshold, it like demotes it to a light stun. And if that,
my whole class is built around armor, so I care about armor a lot.
The multi-hour discussions we've had, and we haven't really come to anything conclusive there. But it's only from mount, raise shield, and parry, and of which, at least for all of them, you can see your stagger bar filling up. It's worth noting things like evasion apply to. So when you're parrying, we turn off your evasion from taking damage because the block does, right? And otherwise you'd be like, I'm going to parry it. Oh, I evaded it. It didn't parry. Yeah. But you can evade the stagger build up. So you don't take the damage anyway, just before anyone misunderstands that.
The evasion still works.
Yeah.
So high evasion will mean you can parry for longer. There's
That's
a bunch
cool.
of parry stuff on the tree, including damage affecting the debuff, the duration of the debuff, so you get to benefit for it longer. Reducing stagger is all over the place for both mount and so in the dex section of the tree. So yeah, you can mitigate. I mean, my expectation is probably you'll get some in-game builds that are just like, I can parry forever and there's no real consequence. So not every skill can be parried, of course.
It otherwise follows the slam rules. If it's a slam from above or below, you can't parry it. Much to your frustration for some things.
I mean, there are a few things where I've got disagreements about what looks like it's parryable, but...
my hopeful there was when it's contentious, people would bring it up and would change it, right?
Sure.
So, like, if it's on the line, it's meant to be blockable. Like, if it isn't clear. And there was no way with hundreds of monsters and many dozens of bosses that we weren't going to miss some things, so...
So you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but action RPGs kind of naturally pull you towards one damage type, one skill, one specific thing, and optimizing as much as possible, because otherwise you're just making a bad build a lot of the time. But I notice Huntress has a bit of everything. She's got bleed, she's got all the elements, she's got physical. The only thing she doesn't have is like chaos, but there's kind of poison on the tree right there. So how do you like promote this, like all of this different stuff together? Are you supposed to only kind of be relegated to using 2 or 3 skills, or are these supposed to come together, and how do you manage that?
Well, there's a few things. So one of them is that we provide a lot of combos with the expectation that you'll probably be focusing around like a few specific things rather than necessarily using the whole tree. So like there's that. The other thing as well is just making sure that in the passive tree there's sort of options that go across both. So the Huntress's passive tree has quite a lot of things like extra melee damage if you've done a ranged attack recently, and then it's got things like bonuses against blinded enemies because while you're in a whirling slash there's so it's sort of stuff like that where we're trying to carefully think like, well, how can we come up with something that's interesting and buffs everything that you might want to be doing, that kind of synergizes with the stuff that that Huntress can do. But it is honestly hard because like many categories of things only matter.
Where's your skill tree start at?
Part of a combo, so it's just like trying to come up with categories that can somehow span all of them in different ways. And ideally, we can achieve that. But yeah, it is pretty hard.
So overlap the
Generally,
ranger,
you're gonna
mercenary.
become more niche or more selective because again, even mixing elemental and bleed is just probably often going to result
You
in something
probably wouldn't do both
suboptimal.
elemental and bleed. You'd probably choose one or the other. But that's why we kind of try to make sure that, like, so you've got sort of linkages between them, though, right? Because it's like, for example, the thunderous leap detonates the spears that you do from the bleed thing. So it's like kind of like the idea there is to like it changes how that skill then has a use in the combo with the other one. So even if that skill itself isn't doing a lot of damage, it's triggering something that's taking advantage of all the damage bonuses you got for the for your bleed stuff. So that's kind of like the idea is just to link all that stuff in a bit so that you can.
But
use
she had a fire and bleed
non,
overlap, if I remember, which
like
seems really cool.
You know, synergistic things in a kind of more synergistic way.
Yeah, that's if you didn't see that from the earlier trailer, or it's you spear them with a bunch of spears and then jump on them and explodes them for bleed. Amazing. So, but yeah, that's using an elemental skill like in another way as detonator. But and even more, you've got weapon swaps as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's all those systems we already added about all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So you know, I mean, like, what will be interesting is whether or not we miss something cross-class, right? That's always a concern. Is someone will come up with some way to abuse something, you know, between something that's going on in the spear skills with some other class that we failed to consider.
Yeah, I mean, so that's it. When we look at a new class, we typically like call it like, oh, Huntress is spears, but kind of not really. It's a signature weapon, but
absolutely
nothing in the Ascendancy's prescribes spears.
Exactly. So effectively, we take great pains to make sure that the Ascendancies never mention weapon types, that there's like that they're always generalized. So, for example, the like infusion mechanic in the Amazon, it just says projectiles, it doesn't say spears, and the reason it does that is so that you could make an Amazon who is a a bow user, and that's all fine. So yeah, like it's effectively like
open-ended.
It's open-ended, and honestly, like I know that Mark like does like. It makes the constraint a lot harder for how to design an Ascendancy class when you have to think about it that way, for sure.
Oh, it'd be much easier to just put a bunch of cool spear stuff in there, but now only really... I mean, it was similar to the original PoE 1 Saboteur. It called out traps and mines, and so if you're a trap and mine character, what are you doing? Well, you could do something else, but no one else is playing that thing, you know? Right. It isn't... it is easier to design. It is certainly less flexible and open as to what people can play in the different combinations and all that, so yeah.
How much do you have to consider the different weapons and the skills and how they interact together when you're originally designing them, or is there just literally so many possible combinations you're just like, the players will take care of that for us?
I mean, I think it is relatively impossible to come up with everything, but certainly we have to consider, like, you know, is this going to be broken with anything else in particular? And
this game seems really hard to balance for
things about, like, you know, how easy is it to apply this debuff, how easy it is to consume this debuff, and even then, it's like, you know, we often make mistakes and have issues. You know, I mean,
when he says relatively impossible, it is actually
actually.
But you know, I mean, yeah, I mean,
That's relative.
but even just looking at the balance pass we're doing at the moment, right? I mean, there's hundreds of things like that, you know, that we still. I mean, there's things that we could never honestly understand all of the different broken things that could possibly exist, and so it's like it really does depend a lot on you know, like on seeing reports and what people are doing on some level, right? But then I think that what will happen over time is obviously, like, you know, the game's still relatively new. We're still making relatively big changes. Over time, the balance, I think, will get to the point where we no longer have these like crazy outliers to the same extent. And it should mean that we get to some sort of relative class parity. By parity, what I mean is, like, you know, people playing all the different classes rather than focusing only on a few as we get towards full release. Because, you know, right now it's obviously very skewed because, you know, there's certain broken things. So, you know, yeah, the balance over time, we'll get there.
It's one of the main goals and benefits of the early access is just like, let's get the balance of characters right. And yeah, this patch... release was always going to have 1,000 problems, or probably 10,000 problems, you know? The next one will have half that, the next one half that, and probably eventually it's going to be down to, like, here's only a few things going, you know, out of whack. There's always going to be something, because we add too much content for it to even be controlled. Again, there are too many uniques, too many supports, too many skills, and too many other changes for any amount of people. Like, you're talking about a matter of you'd have to put in, like, thousands and thousands of hours internally to find it and then you give it to the players. There's so many people, it's going to take literally 5 minutes. So it is. It's very beneficial. And we're lucky in that regard that we get that level of testing and feedback and on such a mass level, and especially, you know, with things like, you know, Ninja and all of that, and other people being able to see it and discuss it more openly, we're just going to be able to iterate on it even faster. But yeah, every single patch you're going to see a pretty substantial change in
what's going to happen here. Yeah.
Thanks for making the broken builds.
So what is the timeline for the actual
Well,
release?
100%.
They haven't mentioned that yet.
I mean, you mentioned support gems. It's like over 100 support gems added just this patch. It's it's already like so many, and with you doing a different weapon for each of the 16 classes.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot by the time we're done. But there kind of has to be, right? Because
I know, that's what you made it. You made this system.
Yeah.
and-
They
and
did
you
not
need
mention
so many
sword or
supports
axes
to
yet.
support,
You
because
do.
otherwise it's not going to work. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
especially with this one support system, it's like, what have you guys done?
Well, I mean, look, this is why we have recommendations, and hopefully we can improve those as well, and continue to get that better. You know, like
There's certainly room for the complexity to get a little bit out of control here. So the recommendeds are going to become more and more important.
Right.
So we need to make sure those are very much right.
for sure.
Must be
April
looking for players
4th.
even to find some of those recommendations down the line as well.
In some
like what-
cases.
yeah,
In
what-
some
Yeah, it's a week
what
from
stuff
week
is
from
really
tomorrow.
But
used
the
for
thing
some
with the
playstyles.
recommendations though is that they can't really take into account what you've already got on the gem. So the recommendations have to be just sort of generally good, but not really take into account combos. You know, that kind of means they're a bit more simple. Like the recommendations are going to be more simple than what you'd otherwise be doing if you're not following.
Feels like at some point you're going to need some sort of nested recommendation system. It's like, well, I'm kind of doing bleed stuff, so you go to the sub menu for bleed recommendations.
I'm less certain about that because I kind of don't want to get into the thing of actually telling you what your build should be. Yeah, that's a little different. Bit different there.
Maybe like more sorting methods for the show me all the gems. Oh, there's a lot that are only in there that are never recommended, right? At this point,
There are, yes, there are.
it's going to be an interesting challenge you guys have set yourselves to
For
make
sure.
enough supports there. So another thing that you managed to challenge that you set yourselves, and I always wondered, like, why did you do this to yourselves, was Spectres. So originally those were planned to be in for launch, but obviously Spectres are a whole can of worms. It's, hey, let's just give players access to every monster. Also, we've made so many new monsters.
Yeah.
We're talking about all the broken. There's going to be some broken in there, I promise you. And there's going to be some stuff we have to
Yeah,
change.
Spectres seems really cool.
I mean, they've done, but I mean, effectively, what the time between early access and this was like, okay, let's actually attempt at least to do a balance pass of this and like see if there's anything that's going to be a problem and then adjust numbers
Yeah, but now
accordingly.
you've got to count all those support gems on all those monsters.
Yes, well, this is an interesting thing, isn't it? The support gems work. The support gems work on them, and you know, like, what the hell is that going to do? Yeah, like, it's impossible to completely know. But yeah, like, look, I mean, there's probably definitely some some dark secrets lying in what kind of Spectre mixed with support gems are going to do.
And monsters have skills now. It's not like PoE1 where it's
Exactly.
like just a bunch of zombies just doing default attack. It's like everything pretty much has a skill now at this point. So
But you know, the great thing about it is we got to leverage all that work again for the beast taming as well. So and of course the difference there is that you also get the mods from the thing that you tamed. So you know, that's going to be
auras, ground effects.
yeah, exactly.
Spawn death explosions.
No, you've got a whole nother ruckus of potential interactions.
Yeah,
So,
that's really, when you start doing generalist, you don't do enough damage,
Specific
armor, and all that other
player
stuff.
versions of those things.
I agree. I was like, I want this. I want this. I want to be 120
so that
levels,
they're
right?
sitting
Not just
there spamming
100.
skills on your hideout and all of that.
Good. Yes. So
But also, like, there
You have to have
actually are
focus
player
to
versions
extent.
of the mods that Res can get, like, so that we can balance them if we need to.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff would be ridiculous if you had it yourself. So, you know, basically, we still have it sort of work. It mostly works the same way, but there will just be numbers tweaked to the player versions, and the same works as well for the what do you call it? The ritual sacrifice.
Headhunter,
Headhunter and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's player versions of the monster mods for that.
yeah, this new attention to these things is going to benefit like the pre-existing stuff like Headhunter and that as well. Yeah, that's insane.
There's a new.
Well, that's why I focus on Rage, Warcry,
There's a new unique
on.
charm that
Armor,
possesses
and
you with a random Esmeri spirit as well, and so you
damage
get
after
damage
that.
in the stats, and those technically also have player versions too, but actually not to necessarily make things worse, to make things better, because monsters are balanced to fight player life and monster life, not in the same universe. So actually what we've done is all the things you steal that are monsters and the monster skills, like the explosions and the summoning bears and all that, we've actually specifically balanced them way up to be more effective against monster. So when you steal them, they're much more powerful, actually. Just so they're not just tickling monsters and doing 1% of their life kind of thing.
It was mentioned in chat actually, the whole like Asmeri modifiers and things on stuff that wouldn't transfer over with the companion system, surely.
No. No.
That would be a little bit too far,
Yeah,
perhaps,
yeah.
a bit unhinged.
We actually had to, because this is certainly a benefit. Once you have tamed the beast, it is not tradable. And people might immediately be like, oh, so that's sad. Well, the issue is, and as much as you might want some of that, I'm sure you don't want to be carrying around a whole bunch of tame beasts in your inventory all the time. So that every single time you find a good rare, all of a sudden you have to go and...
Because the rumor that
tame
finding a
it.
rare would become a thing. Yes, exactly.
It's actually like this
think about that.
annoying,
Yeah.
in order to make the most money, I have to be constantly thinking about and carrying around tame
But then we
beasts
also
and-
made it so that as soon as you activate a beast, then no one who comes into the instance after
Yeah,
that
so
is
you-
allowed to
so you
tame it.
can't do
So
any,
we can't
like-
TFT
Oh.
it's like a whole there's like a lot of thinking about
my
that stuff in
God.
order to make it so that
People
you
like
know,
Pokemon.
No, that's-
They would
that's
want
what
to
I've
trade
lost,
beasts.
But it
Yeah,
is like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not signing up
I
for
didn't
that.
even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, the like needing for cheat sheets and
Yeah,
guides
exactly,
and stuff.
right.
Like,
And so you
which
have to be
beats are
really
worth the
careful.
work?
You have to be so
Currency
careful.
this week.
And then the thing is like we design this thing and then think, oh, trading beasts is going to be fun, but then you realize that the horrific reality
actually.
of what it will turn into. It's like, yeah, okay,
Oh,
well,
no.
you know. But yeah, at least we're thinking about that kind of thing. Like with more experience that we have now, early, so that we don't
We've
sort of
been
run
down
into
that
those
road
problems.
before.
Exactly.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've learned from past
Yep.
issues with that sort of trading.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, talking about some of the other new skills, we had the addition of the rower, which was teased quite some time ago, I think.
Yes.
But you've got it in and working now. It looks
Yes.
like it's moving around pretty good. and
Yes.
It's obviously you've got like a big downside. If you get knocked off at heavy stun and stuff, you can't use melee from it, so it's for ranged attacks.
Yeah.
But it does seem like one of those things that it's going to be like everyone's going to use or no one's going to use because it's a clear speed machine.
It is a concern. I mean, look, my ideal situation is that you're using it sometimes and not using it other times. Like, if you're using it like during clear, I think it will, like you will definitely want to.
I'm not really sure what skill they're talking about.
We want to just make sure that we've got like sort of fun things like that, and like it's just a cool fantasy. Like there's stuff like that I just want to get in, and it's like look, if it doesn't work later, if we have to nerf it, I mean sure, I suppose, but like I want something like that to exist. We believe that it is balanced as much as we can. As much as we can.
You sound very convinced.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's balanced. It's balanced.
Well,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, you can probably
Yeah.
get builds that get to the point of parrying indefinitely. So you can. That means in theory
Yeah.
you can probably get to the point of riding
Sure.
a rower indefinitely.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Again, enough evasion and enough
Yep.
stagger speaking
yeah.
into and all of that.
Yeah.
Well, fundamental question actually. Like, what's its move speed based on? Its own move speed?
The move speed is just your move speed, like you,
Oh, it's got-
but it's
but
what
without the
you're,
penalty.
but what you don't get is the penalty for when you
of
attack.
course.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
that-
But it's funny. It's funny though because like even though it doesn't have a move speed bonus, it feels like you're motoring when you're using it, just because of the fact you don't get that downside
Yeah.
anymore. Like you feel like the fastest thing on the planet.
It is.
when you're doing.
Yeah, there are other like more mechanical benefits, like it's considered a companion, which is a kind of subclass of minion that we've added, where you can only have one of each one companion base is a keystone for another, but you can only have one of each type. So like you can have a tame beast and a rower with the keystone,
Oh, right, yeah.
but inherently you can only have one companion.
Right, so you can't use a tamed beast if you're using the rower.
And then there are heaps of
Yeah.
passives for like if you have a companion, like companions while they're in your presence and all that kind of stuff. Heaps of that stuff around the bottom of the tree.
Yeah, I saw you guys remade the minion damage, is player damage node on the tree. It's you companion damage nodes become player damage nodes. And I was like, oh, that looks like
yes,
I'm going to
that
take
too.
that.
Well, that's the like companion where it's like more the mercenary over to ranger huntress is more like you want your one powerful minion and benefiting that benefits you and you benefit it, and there's that like,
Yeah.
synergy between you and your companions.
So since it is a companion, I like the idea of like balance wise. Maybe it ends up being that you're like map clearing on rollback, and then you get to the boss and you dismount like old school mounted knights
yeah.
who charge in battle and
Yep.
then dismount and fight.
Yep.
So if it ends up like that, that seems like that would be a
I
pretty
think
cool
that
balance
should
for
be,
it.
that should be the best way to use it, I believe.
Yeah, because then you gain access to your dodge roll for
Yeah,
the boss
exactly,
fight where you need it.
exactly. Yeah.
And does the rower then kind of do a bit when you're not on it?
It can attack, but I mean it's not exactly a huge damage source or anything.
It's
like
certainly better to stay at ranged. It's not the most durable of birds.
But it acts as a distraction. Maybe
Yeah,
there's some
I
support
mean it's a
gems
minion, right? Like
you
it
can do
attacks
things with.
things and does stuff.
Yeah, you can support it with minion supports to make it more durable and all of that. So
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's the one that's like the minion takes.
I really
2
like the
seconds
idea of
before you
mounting.
do, so sacrificial bird.
Yeah, true.
Poor little guy. So that sounds. I'm looking forward to playing around with that one then. Speaking of new content, 100 new uniques this time. So how many are you aiming for? Kind of in general, is this about really like filling that roster
Well,
out?
we want to have every base type have a unique for the purposes of chance.
Outside of boss uniques.
Outside of boss unique, so we want every
on
base
top.
type to have to have a unique that you can chance, and
Yes,
so that
okay.
was with the eventual goal. One of the things, of course, that we had that was sort of a problem in early access is that because of the way, because when we were designing uniques, we kind of designed them like in order of from base type up, just literally because that's the way that like spreadsheets are arranged. It's like we ended up with all the low level uniques
enough,
first,
fair
kind of
enough,
before the either ones, and it was kind of it's like we didn't see that mistake coming. Like it was kind of stupid because
We thought we'd get
we
through
thought
way
we'd get through
more
them
of
all, right? We were like, okay, we'll get all the uniques, and so we designed them all. It's like, okay, we'll start working on the art, just go down the list. So then we're like, oh crap, now we don't have very many in-game uniques. So this time we're like, okay, we really need to make sure that in-game uniques are a thing. There's way more of them. So the focus really is on making sure there's lots of cool stuff to find. Lots of really chase things that you can get. It's not.
You discovered the sort order changing in the
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
it does help. Turns out. But the
I really want to see the patch
effectively,
notes.
you should. This it should be a lot better, and there's lots of cool stuff there.
And we're just going to keep going with that,
yeah,
by the way.
of
Like,
course. Yeah.
100 now.
All right, somebody else said PoE 2 updates
Until we-
broken on
until-
PS5.
Kind of, honestly, we never really stopped making uniques. Like,
Yeah.
especially anyone familiar with Path of Exile 1's history,
How
is
do I
every
get
single
back to the bottom?
expansion since the dawn of time has had new uniques added to it. So,
There you go.
there's, a lot there, and there's going to be a lot here eventually as well. So yeah.
So then let's talk about the idea of like players seeing a unique and be like, 1x, that's not very good. What do you guys want uniques to be in Path of Exile 2? Like, how powerful should they be? What should they be aiming to do? And how should they affect the rares in that slot?
I mean, it's always a tension because we want rares to still matter. Like, we don't want just.
I don't use my PS5 much, but
so
it's
it
nice to
really
have.
is, like the role can evolve. So at the start of the game, they're really supposed to be more about that. So the earlier game uniques are supposed to do two things. One of them is when you find them, they should be powerful for a little while.
Yeah.
But then also they have a some kind of combo thing that you might be able to do with them at end game. But we don't always know exactly what that might be. Like, I mean, we've got sort of ideas, obviously, but it's like we don't necessarily design them to say, okay, this unique definitely has like an in-game build that's going to be actually strong to do with it. And that's because you're kind of putting in things where, later on some other mechanic might come along or something might happen, and then people find an interesting interaction, and that's when the unique kind of comes into its own. And I mean, that's the same as like Magic card design philosophy, that kind of stuff. You just put in like kind of weird
Danny,
stuff.
the people in chat are saying it's
Obviously
not
it can mean
working.
that, like, when people see a new unique, they might they dismiss it. But then
That happens sometimes after
sort of
updates happen.
for it if
They'll probably
you
fix
do
it today.
So but I feel like a game has to have.
It's probably working on
stuff
PS5,
in it in order to
PC.
feel like there's lots of interesting ways to experiment because, like, it's like the
But
feeling of being.
I've
the first
seen
person to
chat
discover something
say-
interaction is an amazing thing, and then when people see something that
It's
like
not
feels
working.
smart, and it's like if we don't have uniques that just take
Yeah,
chances
see?
and do weird shit, we'll never have that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah.
Not
so-
working right
When
there.
we're designing a unique, we don't think about what's the value going to be.
So it's just a
We're
glitched
not even
update.
coming out of it going like, this is going to be really expensive, or this is going to be really cheap.
Well, in
Like,
some
that's-
cases,
well,
you
yeah,
knew,
some-
you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, don't delete it. They'll probably patch it today.
don't
I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be today. It sucks it's not working,
No,
but
that's the thing.
it's a
You-
PS5 update
Honestly,
that got
someone
glitched.
said the other day, they were like, it's a successful unique is one that should be.
I've seen that
discussed.
posted several times
I
last
agree,
few minutes.
for the most part, but not every unique should fill that role. Some should just be clearly, this is powerful. I want.
No,
it
that happens
for
on PC
sure.
sometimes
This is
too.
going to be on
I had
my
an issue when the
list.
game first
And
came
others
out.
are like, what can I do with this now? And then others are just like, we don't know if anyone's going to do anything with this. Throw it in, and sometimes it doesn't get anything happen with it for 3 years. But we don't know that necessarily. It's like, let's just take an experiment and throw it in there and let the players figure that out.
Yeah, I feel like you're with a lot of these uniques, you're designing a question. You're just like, I'm going to put something that's a little weird. Maybe someone will figure that out.
Well, I think as Rishi called it, it's a puzzle piece, right?
Yeah.
It's just a piece in the puzzle. You put it there, and maybe someone will complete the puzzle or half of it. Maybe not. And then others where it's just like, yeah, this is powerful. Like,
I mean,
have
there
it.
are definitely some chase uniques in this. In this
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So on Chase Uniques, then we've obviously had some like pretty crazy ones so far. Where do they want to be in terms of like how hard?
If
they
you see
are
me
to
yawning,
beat?
I just had a baby a few weeks ago.
So
I was up all
it's
night,
really
so
tricky. So
I'm
whenever
still
we're looking,
still
so
waking
to make
up.
this broken, I guess there's two responses, right? One of them is make it rare enough that you only get the brokenness after the point when you're at the point where you're supposed to get that, right?
Yeah.
Which is to say, like, post pinnacle boss type,
You win.
like a late level of character
Yes.
development, right? And then the other response would be nerf the actual unique, and it honestly is a case by case. Like, I think that like Temporalis, for example, actually got nerfed in both ways. The actual unique was nerfed a little bit, I believe, although I don't believe it's maybe as much as what players might expect. But then also,
Baby's very good, thank you.
But also,
I'm getting used to feeding her out of bottle now
It's still,
and
it's
burping
still
her.
pretty crazy.
Oh, it's still
right?
crazy for sure.
But she's really good.
But the thing is like you want to chase stuff, right? So therefore, you don't want to just go nerfing everything into the ground the moment that it's
Yeah.
good. Therefore, that one becoming rarer, I think, was the right answer there, because it was way too common. Just due to the
We had also the issues with I mean, there were three real issues. One is darkness at one point bypassed honor loss, so all of a sudden a no-hit run. It wasn't a no-hit run.
Yeah.
You had guard bypass honor loss, so once again a no-hit run's not a no-hit
Yeah.
run. And
next
then there was just like
Wednesday,
well, how can
it'll be a
anything
month.
hit you if you can
She's
kill
born
everybody
March
that's
2nd.
on your screen in one frame, right? So those three problems, and so as the balance issue of not everything surviving for more than one frame due to a subset of builds, and those other two things go away, it becomes
She's a lot easier
rarer
now
in
than she was like
itself.
2 weeks ago.
Embedded is much harder to acquire, require like very specific and ideally high skill gameplay. And then there's just like, well, it also was just too common, the relic that yielded it.
I mean, the expectation was that, because this is a hard challenge, most of the time when people try, they will fail. The reality is once you get the ability to do it, you just trade for that thing and get it every time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of meant that the
Printing.
rarity kind of didn't work like we thought, and now that should be better in both ways.
Again, for the PoE 1 players comparison, like it was far more common than Original Sin, which was the same role in PoE 1's version of the Sanctum, just to give us some sort of comparison.
It's just much easier to actually reliably do it.
And it shouldn't have been that much more common.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha. So crafting really surprised me. You guys announced. I thought we'd maybe get like one little thing. Maybe you'd do something with essences or something. But we've got essences coming out a lot more.
I like the updates to crafting.
Because you're violent, you can
So greater essences,
now.
greater
More
essences
options.
are going to be much easier to get. One thing we didn't mention in the video is that like omens are way more common, because I believe you made the change. There's an omen in every
2.5 times more common, I think.
Yeah, than every
Sweet.
thing. So like you've got stuff like that. Like we certainly knew that we needed to do more with what crafting stuff, and so we're kind of like, well, let's just make sure we're at least adding 3 or 4 things, like new things to. And,
Every ritual will now have at least one omen in the window.
Okay,
So
cool.
you can know upon finishing a ritual, you're like, what is the omen I'm going to get, and hope it's a good one. And
Love it.
Maybe most often it's not, but
But yeah, the greater essences, obviously, the Varlorb thing makes it much more common. There's more sources of them with the map and everything like that. So that'll be happening more. And then, of course, there's the improvements to things like the runes. We've got higher level mods that you can get from them. There's like a ton more runes. There's like, we just wanted to expand the set, and having the kind of like, the niche mods that you can get and craft on things, like it just needed more options. And it's sort of interesting because like some people say, oh, you don't have crafting in PoE 2 because we don't have a crafting bench, but it's like we actually have a huge number of crafting options, and the crafting being good kind of comes down to like how many of these kind of weird systems are there and how they can interact. But we just have to be really careful because you don't want to get to the point where ground items no longer matter. And I think PoE 1 kind of basically did get to that point for various reasons, where like people aren't caring about what's on the ground nearly as much. So we still want to make sure with every change we're making that they still use the ground stuff, that you're still excited for things on the ground, and so that's like a really careful balancing act, because they do directly contravene each other. Like the better stuff you can craft, the less important the ground stuff is. So it's a really sort of subtle balancing act. But I think that the stuff we've added here will definitely push things in a way where you feel like there's more smart things that you can do to kind of improve your stuff.
Yeah, well, I think done right, and what you're doing is making sure that the ground items do matter with each of these crafting systems. So
exactly.
You had that fundamental change where you can't just turn an item back into a white item. whenever you
Exactly,
want.
and that's very important. One of the biggest ones, I think, and that kind of then unlocks the ability to do more. And so the great thing about the socketables as a crafting system is that they don't compromise the ground at all, because they don't, they're on top of the stuff that you can get on the ground. So that's very good. But when it comes to the kind of the base mods, we do want to retain, like, that an item has. We do want to retain, for the most part, the kind of thing of like that part of the item generation is random. It's just that, it's just that on top of that you get the more deterministic things that you can add in addition to. And then when you do it that way, it works really well. So socketables work really well as a crafting system for that reason.
Well, so on that topic, we've had this talking to you. It's like you're always saying to me that like this rune system is our crafting bench, but players don't keep asking for a bench anyway.
Right.
So obviously there's like a branding issue or a functionality
100%.
gap
So
here.
it is funny because I was actually saying the other day that like if we had literally had that system be identical, except that the way it was themed was that there's a crafting bench you go to and craft extra mods on the items, like which literally be functionally the same, I think, and required materials that are effectively the runes that you get. Then I feel like people would be thinking that we've got a crafting bench. But yeah, ultimately that is that the rune system, the socketables are what replaced the crafting bench in the PoE1 style crafting bench.
And I guess it must have also been like with that initial kind of out.
Yeah, they made more runes this time,
Just not as many options as.
and they made
and that's because they
more
were
options to
relatively
craft
late
now.
development.
Yeah.
So now we're just sort of expanding that, and we'll continue to add more socketables probably with every release, right? Like we'll add more categories of them or do different things. It's like expanding the kind of type of mods, because there is a thing where it's the more like in the base mod pool for items, there can only be things that are really fundamental.
I want a
And so
stash
anything
tab
out
for
there
those
we don't
though.
want to put in the base mod pool, because then you end up with this sort of situation where you get items and they've got random shit you don't care about. Like the crafting is where you want to have all of the kind of stuff that's like very build specific.
Yeah.
And so adding more mods to that pool so that you can do that is the right idea.
Why is it that you can't socket and rune some things, like non-attack weapons, for example?
Well,
It was more just a choice for asymmetry, where we just wanted these things to feel different. There was also just like a little bit of a like, in the future, we'll add some system where we can do something else there. And so just not having everything be completely identical. Much like how, the quality on those weapons works differently, where it affects the skill as opposed to just, base damage.
I do think it is something that we should be probably looking into sooner rather than later, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the asymmetry things, it's good to have, like, not everything be super homogenous, but because we're talking about the importance of it being that extra layer of control over your items, which you just don't have if you're doing spellcasting.
Well, maybe we'll add an Arcanist's bench and theme it that way for those
Okay,
ones.
all right. You forced my hand. I have to bring this up now. Can we get some sort of, like, cohesive, all-in-one bench for disenchanting, salvaging, selling for gold, Arcanist benching at endgame? I get in the campaign having these things be separate, but like at endgame, it's so much clicky.
You're not happy
work.
enough with them just being next to each other, putting them next to each other, and you
No.
All right. Well, that's all right. I'll think about that one.
Okay, good. I've planted the seeds at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Done my part.
All right.
There's ways.
Max, there's ways. I like the sounds of that.
Well, at least for endgame. Like,
Yeah, that's what I figured, yeah.
I don't want the world to not feel like it makes sense.
Absolutely.
So,
But
Having it that you can just,
endgame,
like-
you've got your hideout where they're all
It would
like-
have to be a hideout related thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, people are putting their NPCs within each other's personal space anyway, so
Yeah.
the law goes out the window at that
Yeah,
point.
for sure. For sure.
So we've also got Fractured, crafted via an orb from the cleansed
Mm-hmm.
monsters. How rare are those?
how do you quantify rarity like that? They drop from the monsters.
I kind of care most about the balance changes at this
Can't remember
point.
the exact number, but like I think I was kind of saying like one per biome.
Endgame stuff's
which
really
is
cool
the
though.
kind of total blob of cleansed monsters.
I like the
but then
updates.
That obviously does get affected by things like pack size and all
Yeah.
that on top of that.
Yeah.
So is that like 5 maps or something?
Well, it depends on how many of them you kill as corrupted.
Yeah,
Because the ones you didn't
Yeah.
cleanse while you were getting to the Nexus, those are the ones that then become cleansed. So you kind of have to choose, like when you go into a biome, am I going to beeline straight for the Nexus and then cleanse everything, or am I going to just fight them all as corrupted to get the rewards from that? So you're kind of choosing one reward or the other based on what you decide to run.
Okay, so you can kind of leave the Nexus for last if you want to.
Yes, if you want
use
to.
it to try and get.
There's
more.
another interview tomorrow though
Yeah.
with
Oh, no,
GGG.
it's the other way around.
Other way
So
around,
do
yeah.
Dark
Nexus first,
microtransaction, I
then it
believe.
cleanses all the maps,
Oh.
and then now you can get the most chance at fractured orbs, or you can fight them corrupted before going to the Nexus if you want to get the rewards that the corrupted maps have.
And we have like
Ah.
for example, the corrupted bosses have their own uniques now.
Yeah, so you're gonna want that's
There's a
you're gonna
bunch
be
of
wanting
new
those.
modifiers
Yeah.
and how they, You know, so there's like
Yeah.
random corrupted strongbox kind of things and all of that
Clever.
stuff. So you kind of really are like, I'm gonna have a look at the mods.
right.
I like
Are
this. I'm gonna
there-
do this, then this, then this, then the Nexus, and then I'm gonna do the rest cleansed.
Does the cleansed boss have its own uniques as well?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
It does have. It guarantees a fractured orb though as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So you can get the boss.
So and you'll display if you hover over the map and it says like contains.
Yeah, PS5 can't log in.
Then you run it and kill it, you will get a fractured orb. So at least you will know that will drop one.
Yeah.
So with the fractured orbs being away fracturing, that's obviously super powerful for crafting. Are there any fractured items dropping pre-fractured? I quite liked that.
I think we went with no in the end.
Yeah,
we
not
were going to do
currently.
it, but then we decided not to. But we might do it later.
Yeah, so an extra add-on. Is there a particular reason for it or thought process for that?
There just kind of wasn't anything that really fit that exactly. I think.
At some
Someone's
point,
asked about
some
ascendancy
new
respects.
thing to
Yeah,
go in that
probably.
was like, this feels
Personally,
right
I
to-
would rather just drop more orbs,
Yeah.
honestly, and let people choose how they want to use them.
I like it from the perspective of dropped items matter.
So when this is
When you
over,
see it
I'm gonna open up the
Kind of already
PS5,
do.
not PS5
Kind of
client.
do
I'm gonna open
it
the PC
anyway,
client.
They do,
Like
because you
because
use
you
it.
need that
Yeah.
as the
Do a little
as the
bit of endgame
thing that makes it
content.
necessary, I think. Yeah.
There's other little subtle things, like for example, the cleansed monsters within cleansed maps can't drop equipment as a little thing. So they have much higher. Obviously, they're dropping things more like waystones, tablets, currency. They don't get to drop any of the armor or anything. So they're more like currency sources. Is like an interesting
Yeah,
subtle
if
thing.
if you want more currency, then play cleansed maps.
You know,
So we're going to have a lot more essences, a lot more omens, potentially ability to get fractured, recombination with the new, more accessible at low and mid tier
design
recombination.
4.0. Yeah.
This is, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Blue, I'll do that. Thank you.
This is a huge, huge leap forwards compared to 0.1's crafting.
For sure.
So was it just about that you had to establish that really like humble baseline for crafting so that you could then go crazy with it like this?
Honestly, I mean, look, on some level, it can just be, like you need an economy. You need to see how things evolve. We just don't want to do too much at once. I mean, although this may seem like quite a lot. I mean,
It does, yeah.
but the thing is like, but in terms of the initial system, it's like if we'd have had all that at the start,
Yeah.
I think that we wouldn't have been like, we'll put it this way: it is hard to take the stuff away. So that's why we
Yeah.
have to be a little bit careful as we do this.
Yeah, I guess you needed to kind of assess the fundamental things like the no scours, the no
Yeah, 100%,
bolts, and stuff like
100%.
that as well, because then you can have a better idea of how to build off that, which I'm super excited for. Crafting.
But of
Yeah,
course, and if
actual
you know
crafting.
us, like more, there'll be more. There's always going to be more.
Oh yeah.
so.
Oh, you're gonna have a new craft for every league, right? That's how it is these
And
days.
Dawn Hunt,
I expect a craft.
when's the next update after that? Because we're already 4 months in.
That's somewhat actually our intention. So.
Yeah.
I love
So
it. I
I'm
love
curious
it.
about their
So,
timeline,
let's
I
talk
guess.
about Endgame then, because that had some humble origins.
Or other
as well as the
releases.
Initial implementation of PoE 2's Endgame. Obviously, trying some new things, being a bit experimental, not necessarily just wanting to copy PoE 1's Endgame. But how far of your vision was 0.1's Endgame? Was it what you want?
I would say that the main problem that we had is there wasn't enough overlapping axes of randomness, as we call them, where effectively you need to have it so that when you go into a map, there's just chances for random shit occurring, and then that random shit like might happen alongside some other random shit, and then nothing together is like a new scenario. So I mean, effectively,
Random
like
shit squared.
yeah, exactly, right. So let's like if you look at what we actually added here in terms of like encounters, if you will, whatever that means to you, like we've added kind of more than 40, probably something approaching 50 encounters, and that's if you count things like each rogue exile is a separate one, and each spirit's a different one, and things like that, right? So those are the things. But the big difference between the ones we had before and the ones we have now is that most of these ones can overlap with other things. So you have a situation where you've got the Asmeri Wisp that like happens to infect the unique boss of the area, and then that leads to a combat situation that you haven't had to deal with before, or then like you've got some essence thing that like or like, oh crap, that like this other wisp like caused the thing to turn into a boss that then it's just like it's all that stuff combining, or like what happens when this goes with a with a unique strongbox, and it's like all that combining stuff, and that's what leads to the situation where you've got an exponential explosion of like possible combat situations, and then sometimes you just run into stuff that you've never seen before because of that, because of this combined in some interesting way. And that's something that definitely PoE 1 has got very well, because it's got so many of these things that have been added over time. And it's also something that we took care to make sure that each league specifically did.
PoE 1 has
what
so
PoE 2
much
lacked
content
was,
in
I
it.
think that. And so that will mean, I think, that the end game is overall just much more engaging. Now, obviously, we're going to be adding more content and more of the other stuff, but fundamentally, it's like it was specifically more of that type of stuff that we needed to do. And honestly, I don't think we've even got enough yet. Like, we want even more. We'll keep on adding that stuff, but it needed to become a focus. And I think part of the reason is that like when we're first working on the end game, it's right. It's like we need to come up with the big ticket items, right? Like what are the the league things and like the maps, and we need to come up with all that stuff. And so it's the little detaily kind of things that kind of a little bit require a bit more like time and stuff to work on. Even though they're actually like relatively efficient to make. Like we can make a lot of them when we do actually sit down and design them, because they're like making a new strongbox. Like sure, it's work, but it doesn't take like that long, if you know what I mean. But it is. But it is that stuff that really adds all the flavor and kind of interest. So we'll just be continuing to do that through the game. And I mean, even yesterday we were having a conversation about like making it so more of the maps, even just like regular maps, have more interesting just little things that happen in them and stuff like that. Like more like what the campaign has.
Love that.
So we haven't like got there yet, but like as through early access, we'll definitely be just like introducing more of those little details everywhere, so that you get the interesting things happening.
Yeah, so a bit like those exploration mechanics in campaigns.
100%, yeah, exactly. That's just we just want to make sure that you feel that same way through the in game as well.
And with the leagues as well.
Yeah.
And like, there's really only so much randomness that can occur within a breach in a map, and so they will end up feeling ultra repetitive. Whereas
breaches are so much fun.
One, you had the boss that could spawn occasionally. You had 5 different factions. Things like that. And it is very much our intention to expand on all the leagues, to have way more random things occurring, mini bosses spawning, whatever else.
Mini bosses are fun too,
I
though.
don't want to spoil them all yet because that's a whole later thing. But definitely want to expand on all that. Even Expedition only has the one boss. It had 4 in the predecessor. We need to get back to having all of that depth and all of combat and all of those mechanics, and it'll help hugely.
The problem with Expedition is there's only
but what
you don't get a boss every time you do it.
Minimum standard.
The logbooks are very rare, and you're not guaranteed a boss.
All of these things from the get-go.
So that would suck when you do the
Otherwise
Expedition
we're
and
just
you get a
signing
boss fight.
ourselves up for like, here's 1,000 things we need to improve. It'd be nice to actually get some of them finished. So that's going to be a goal going forward for sure.
But I think it's like it is where our type of design shines, because like adding content is no longer a process of like, we work on a thing and then the players get to play. Like it gets into a situation where like adding content is more value than just the content itself. Because it adds to everything else too, and so that kind of makes it feel like the world gets like larger in much larger proportion than what you have. And so like it's an n squared thing where like the square of all stuff we add. So that, like basically it'll feel like it's ramping up in terms of interest as we add more content, rather than just feeling like you're just continuing like rather than every league feeling like you just add the same amount. It'll feel like it gets even bigger each time.
Yeah, like when you add Asmeri Wisps, that's not just about adding that. It interacts with all the other things that already exist that it can go ahead and affect. So that's tackling one of the, ultimately, I think the biggest things is just that, like, the core basic mapping of running an empty map was boring, and that's never what you want to be, obviously. So, like, some of the issues there, I guess, as well, that were exacerbated by that problem was the fact that the maps were so big and that there were so many of them. Obviously, that's getting a lot better with the maps themselves becoming much more interesting, but it seems like this corruption and cleansing mechanic is...
Do we still have to kill the rare monsters? Do we still have to...
as you move towards the next tower or next boss...
backtrack and all that maps?
I mean, I guess there's
still
always
an
something
issue
on your screen that you're pushing towards, it looks like.
Well, we want to try and... honestly, I don't even think we're even quite there yet. Like, we really want to make it so that you feel like there's lots of quests, as it were, in endgame. Like, not necessarily directly in the form of, like, here is a quest objective, but, like, that you sort of have this feeling of, like, there's, like, different stuff that you're... like, that you feel like, there's a thing, like, exactly, right? You need to... ideally, like, every time you do one of those, it's like there's another one just on the horizon that you're thinking about. So, if we can achieve that, then we'll have succeeded. But, it'll... need to keep adding stuff, right? Like, just more and more things. Because, obviously, you need to have enough just core there to be able to get to the point of it doesn't feel like you're just repeating the same thing over and over again as well.
It seemed like this, like, explorable world map thing that you did for Endgame, being, like, looking like a physical actual map, was really wanting us to explore, but that wasn't really much of that, so you kind of...
Yeah, well, I mean, ideally we can... It's just about content, really, at that point, You just need to add more and more, and we'll keep on adding more, and this
100% get more.
Yeah, and 0 to 0, I think, goes a long way to improving that, for sure.
So with the corruption mechanic now, you're going to see some corruption on the map, and you're going to want to go there because it's a system that you can interact with.
Exactly.
I like to update the corruption quite a bit.
Yes.
So you're unlocking skill
Keeps
points
things
from
interesting.
that, which means you're unlocking more of the Atlas tree earlier on.
Your first Nexus, you have to run at a tier 1 map, and it will drop 2 skill points. It'll give you your first two skill points.
Awesome.
And then you're like, all right, where's my next Nexus? that's where I'm going for my next 2, and then your next one, and you have to do them 1 tier higher every time. So the second one you go to at tier 2 to get your skill points and so on and so forth.
It's
And
not just
that's it.
it's not just grind 10 maps.
Yeah, that was terrible.
good.
I like the map
So,
system
yeah,
where
it
you
is very much
travel
like, let's go and
across the
play
map
this
to
properly.
location,
And then
keeps you
it's like,
motivated,
there's
excited to
more
get there.
mechanic around it.
It's that way with
Yeah,
Citadels
if you
too.
want to just like I want to get my points as fast as possible, just go Nexus to Nexus to Nexus and get as many as you can. If you're like, oh, I can't see any Nexus, maybe go to a tower to reveal more, and then, you know, what you're doing way less frequently, mind you, thank goodness.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a lot more objective driven as opposed to just, again, random grind and random exploration. There's at least, and you should be seeing a pretty decent chunk of unique maps.
I was going to ask,
I call them
It's
unique
funny,
maps.
it's funny because I was pointing out to Mark the other day the distinction between a unique map and a normal. Like, there is no distinction anymore. We shouldn't even look at that way. Like, it should be that every map is like unique in some sense.
There's not a unique.
You know,
map
there's not a
system.
unique
We have
map, exactly.
we do have an icon for it because they are kind of in a different echelon.
Yeah.
But yes, technically, unique map is a name that's a holdover from POE1.
Yeah, because you can use mods with them with waystones anyway.
these-
So it doesn't. There's no actual
True.
reason for a unique to be any different than a normal map.
You can craft
It's
it
just,
and
it's,
enhance
it
it.
really
and
just
juice
it really just comes down to how rare they are relative to other things, right? So,
And how rare are they? How like
I mean,
maybe
again,
in
so hard to
terms
explain.
of player screen.
yeah, I mean, look, as I said, I think
How many
that
screens?
How many? I had the numbers, I just don't remember them.
Well, I mean, as I said, they should be common enough that you feel like there's always some kind of objective you're excited about on the screen, right?
Honestly, more common than I was initially comfortable with, and then after trying it, I was like, okay, actually, this is like, this is reasonable. So
Yeah, I feel like you initially probably want them to be common enough that you're like almost getting tired of those map layouts, so then you're incentivized to add more.
The good thing is, by the way, by adding more here, we didn't just keep them the same commonality as the 2 that existed.
Yeah.
Like they are just more common. It's not like the reason. Part of the reason it wasn't as common before is because there was only 2, and that would have just been repetitive and boring. One of the other restrictions is that the
I like what they're talking about, but they're not explaining any of the other updates.
biome, so to speak, and that was one of the Citadel biomes.
new stuff's
one of the rarest
fantastic,
and
though.
elite, you know.
Yes.
So it's like we've not only made that more common within that biome, but a lot of the new ones, in fact, all of the new ones aren't restricted to those city biomes, and thus they are appearing more frequently. And some of them are like, oh, you want deserts because they give you the essence map, or you want the mountain because they can give you this and that, you know. So like, ideally, there's a little bit of just like you see the edge of a desert, and you're like, oh my god, please.
Yes. Okay. So that's what I was going to say. This like idea of exploration is like I felt there needed to be something biomes where like you're actually pushing into a biome because there's that one node that like affected your drops slightly, but obviously that's not much.
The one that was the shattered lakes, for example, as you can probably imagine, only spawns in the water biome, and so there's a little bit of like, you know, and so does Untainted Paradise, and so does one other. So there are actually 3 special maps that can spawn only in the water. So go to the water.
And otherwise, how easy is it to find? You said there's an icon. Obviously, you kind of have an idea of what biomes. Is it like also something that's pretty visually
there's art there,
spottable on the map?
Yeah, so the
That
when we
looks
looked at with the
interesting.
when we looked at with the megaliths, which had all the storm and lightning, well, on the map it has a bunch of storm and lightning.
Cool.
So yes.
That's awesome. Cute. That's great. So we mentioned the Atlas passive tree, and you're seemingly, I think, you're getting better progression of that. But definitely an issue I had with it personally was that it felt very top heavy, both for the core one and also.
They don't mention about end game. They want it to be fast, slow.
The league mechanics, you don't get.
They haven't
points
talked about
for
any of that
bosses, which
stuff.
To me, feels like the end of it for most players.
That kind of was the original pitch of that, and I wouldn't say that's really changing here, but there is more we want to do with that, and I think that it could be made better, but 0-2 isn't getting a change there to that side. But in terms of the actual core Atlas, it definitely is. You know, like you're getting that earlier. There's more. It's a bigger tree. There's more interesting stuff.
There's subtle changes to getting them in the sense that, like, for example, the difficulty 0 pinnacle bosses are way lower life.
Well, that's actually
now.
good. That's actually a very good point. So yes, difficulty 0 is now like half the life that it had before, and so that's like a pretty
But
substantial
difficulty
change.
4 is currently the same as what it was before. So it's same top end, but like easy, more accessible for more people at the bottom end.
Right.
And then also because of, like, you know, due to the reliquary key working the way it does, all pinnacle bosses can drop all uniques at all difficulties, except they are like substantially less common at difficulty 0, but you feel way less bad for running them at that point now.
Yeah.
So again, it's just opening that up to a lot more people to farm, and it's not so much dependent on if your build can't do difficulty 4, you're not really a viable character kind of mindset.
So much more easy onboarding for those.
Which will
pinnacle
give you your
bosses now.
first sets of points certainly a lot easier now. That being said, not if you're playing the most broken build of all time, because you're probably nerfed into the ground, let's be real. So with your new build, we'll have to see how that balance goes.
With their new broken build.
Yeah,
of all
well,
time.
sure.
yeah.
They mentioned nerfed, but they don't explain it yet.
Spectre builds,
Spectres,
yeah.
Anyway, the ultimate point being, yeah, you're certainly going to get those initial set of points easier than before. However, yeah, you are right that something isn't quite right there still, and I do need to kind of explore.
We are going to do more with this like later. We've talked about this issue, but we didn't have time to do anything about it in 020 as much. But certainly by the end of early access, I think that system will probably look quite different.
Part of it also, as we were talking about before, adding all those extra bits of content to the leagues, it'll help give more interest to the trees and more nodes we can add to actually invest into. Because if you think about a breach, there's only so much you can actually modify right now. Right, there's a level of radius, speed, density of monsters, and like sure there's the standard stuff with monsters, but like you can only go so far when you don't have all of that depth of different factions and different bosses and different mini bosses and different itemizations or additional things with catalysts and whatnot. Like you are quite limited in how expansive a tree can be, and so it'd be nice to get those things in and also kind of look at the trees at the same time and reevaluate how that works, just so we can have them be more interesting while we're at it. Right. But yeah.
And now with the pinnacle bosses, if you're like halfway through a level, you don't need to. Oh, maybe I'll do that when I get the rest of the level now.
Yes, that was a good change.
I lost 60% experience at a pinnacle boss.
As you were saying, you no longer gain experience or lose experience anymore from pinnacle.
That was like a week worth of experience.
I think that's just a straight up upgrade, and I think that it's not like you were playing pinnacle bosses for experience.
No.
So it does the downside is not an issue really.
It also is the nice thing of really just keeping like if we add more leagues, for example, and we end up with a domain of timeless conflict problem, where it's just like rotations to max level, like ultra.
Yes,
ultra
we
quick.
don't want that type of content to be the way you
now
level.
we can say maps are the way you level, like that is what you're doing. And sure, you might get some sort of unique map rotation here, and maybe not. I don't know. Depends. But hopefully we can avoid that. But either way, like it's just really you're playing in maps to level, and that's what you're doing.
It's
and
not,
there's something
that's
nice
not
about
itemized
that.
content, right?
At least until we've added Delve.
Well, sure. I mean, there will be future parallel in-game systems.
Confirmed.
Right?
I know you want to do something with
Yes,
Delve.
yes.
You're a fan. I mean, you made the end game look like Delve, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been a long-term problem, and one we need to properly.
I'm not sure what Delve is.
Well. The whole like can't do my content because I got a level, and I'm like, even if you're only like 15% in, you're like, oh.
Yeah. It's just not as bad. Yeah. It's just not as bad in PoE1 because the leveling is faster.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
it hasn't been on our radar as much.
So speaking of like map progression, there's been some fundamental changes there. You're telling me that now you can no longer drop maps below your current level of map.
It's correct. So yes, you no longer get if you're playing a T5 map, you're only going to get T5 maps, or if there's a boss there, a T6 map. But we've also smoothed the way the whole progression works. So we've actually the map drops are way less random now entirely. When you kill the last rare in a map, that has a
still kill less rares. Okay.
At T1, that was a 100% chance to drop another map of the same tier. And then as you go up the tiers, you can still sustain that using Waystone chance. So effectively, it's de-randomized that a lot. And then there are several ways that you can get upgrades. So in terms of like going up the tiers. So one of them is that when you kill a boss, that's a guaranteed +1 upgrade. Then of course you can still cube them up, 3 to 1 recipe to go up a level, or you can run it corrupted. And if you're running a corrupted map, then because it drops the same tier, that's like a sort of guaranteed. When I say corrupted, I mean the one that
Varlob corrupting up
+1. That lets you do the run them the same level as well. So you've kind of got those three options, but it's much more intentional now. It's like if you're going up maps, it's like you're deciding, okay, this is a thing I am doing. You don't just kind of have that like it doesn't just happen. So it's kind of supposed to make the jump like. If you're just looking to sustain, you can do that, pretty much guaranteed. And unless you're dying more than the number of times you've got portals, which is obviously the thing now that you can go through portals again, the sustain is going to be a lot easier if you are dying.
Yeah.
But then it's like once you've achieved that, it's like you effectively can sustain forever. Like the cases where people just drop off the bottom and have issues should be like way less common.
Ultimately, it's way less random, way more deterministic.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you can as long as you are able to do the not die all the time, you will sustain that tier forever.
Right.
Assuming you can roll enough, a high enough mod count. And there is a boss here, I'm going to go up a tier.
Yeah.
And you go for the boss, you kill the boss, you go up a tier.
And if you...
And then you sustain that tier forever as long as you can do the difficulty.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just very clean.
And if you're adding more mods, which you do need to be doing to continue to maintain 100% ability to go up tiers, then, and if you're doing that early, you're getting more maps than what other people are getting, which means you can do the cubing as well. Like, it's just kind of like, it just much more effectively gets the thing where, good players can advance at the right speed, normal players don't fall off the bottom of the curve. It kind of solves all of those issues, like without, but also you're not going to have just like hordes of low-level waystones that you don't need.
I like the waystone update quite a bit.
And just no, it does. There are still, you can get to the highest tiers relatively quickly. You have to prove you're good enough, your character's good enough, but if you're doing it, you get there, right? Yeah. It's pretty quick, and you can take it at your own leisure as well, and that's completely fine. So it's not like, oh, we've made it way longer to get to tier 15. Like, none of that is really the case. It's just that before you could luck into getting to tier 15 quickly, with some level of, biasing the luck, of course. Or you could just be like, what the heck, I'm like constantly running out and have a really bad time.
Right.
And so now it's just way, way more like predictable, and honestly, it probably has way more of an impact on the sustain problem, which we didn't really, which we talked about, which is the respawning. I would argue this thing has like way, way, way more impact on map sustain than the respawning does. I mean, obviously, if they're paired, then they relate.
You need both because because the guaranteed drop comes from the final rare. So if you were just dying, you would never get it. So the respawning is necessary in order to make it so that that's going to happen for players who like and obviously as it gets more difficult, and you get less portals, you start to get to the point where you're going to run into trouble. But if you're a good player, you should be able to get up into the top and sustain very well.
Yep.
You mentioned the idea of maps dropping magic by default.
Yes.
Is that something you're still doing, or?
I believe it is. But no, actually, wait. But there wasn't a concern about that, which I wanted to talk to you about later.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later because a concern was raised that I think is valid. So we were going to make it so that maps drop magic and above, but there might be issues, so we'll discuss that later on.
Well,
non-decided.
Yeah,
undecided. Yeah.
Undecided. Yeah.
You thought it was decided.
Got a week left.
They got a week left to decide. Okay.
Still figuring.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like much more deterministic progression
But
if
yes,
you're
that's
able to
the main
prove
thing.
the power that you have.
That's the main
It
thing.
just should be, am I strong enough to do this? Yes, I can do it.
Right.
Not, am I lucky enough to do this, and
Yeah.
am I strong enough to do this?
Great.
One of those axes, get out of here.
Love it. So we've got rogue exiles populating the maps now. How common are these guys, especially with unique, since you get their unique guaranteed? I love that. The whole
It's 1 in 8%, 1 in 12.
This is
and a
going
half to
longer
start
than
with,
they
but of course,
mentioned. They
it's
thought it was
really
going to go an hour and a half.
So you could speak into that.
is there like a map modifier for that or something to guarantee it? Or something like
there
that?
are. I think
That's
in
a
this
good
case,
question.
this one is the exception, whereas you can get normally guaranteed of the other things. We wanted the exiles to be one that you can't just guarantee all the time.
They don't always have uniques.
Yeah.
But when they do, they're using them. The AI is very cool, like how it works.
I mean, they can have
nuts.
0, 1, 2. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing stopping them from having uniques in every slot.
POC
But, like,
is
There's a chance
ass.
that would be
It is
incredibly low.
absurdly
Why are they
rare.
watching this then?
I assume it's
Yeah.
just roll per slot, basically, right?
Yeah, it is
it's roll per slot.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
you
we're talking
might have
like
a line of just
fraction of a fraction of a percent
Yeah,
for like
exactly.
all of them, but still like 5 or something like that. Yeah.
it can happen.
But they have quite a lot, like, because they're a player, the assumption is that their other gear is also relatively good, so they do generally drop more biased towards dropping higher tier rares and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
they doing that like full set of items because
Yep,
you've killed
yep,
a player.
yep.
Cool, I like that. I always love that little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's even more important here in PoE2, so that's awesome. But just some of those will be unique, maybe.
We wanted them to be less common than the other content, but like way more exhilarating when you find them.
Yeah.
But of course, again, you can speak into them
So,
at the cost of other
seems
things.
like we're only hearing about new content, which is interesting, but I care about all the
Is there gonna be
balance
some
updates.
sort of, like, warning that they're coming, or are you going to know they're in the map ahead of time, or are you just going to get ambushed by these guys? Leaf zone from off
You
screen.
won't know they're in the map ahead of time, much like anything random you run into.
But they talk though, and they'll say something before they.
They monologue before they murder
They
you.
do,
Don't know if
yes.
I'd go to quite the level of
Again,
monologue.
when I said
but
some
sure.
when I said some insult you, I'm not joking. Like some do literally insult you, and I believe one of the monks is a pacifist, and he's like, I don't want to do this. Don't force my hand. He'll do it anyway. But,
I'm not.
Yeah.
You're just like running away.
Yeah,
He's like,
exactly.
don't make me
Don't
do
force my
this."
hand. Yeah, exactly.
well, look, you can just run away. You know, I really like the here's an occasional spike in difficulty, and again, it's important that they are relatively rare for that reason as well. But I do want it to be when you find one, you are very excited to kill it, and of course, even though they portal out, you still have your number of portals you have. So unless you're running like a full 6 modded Waystone, just get back in there, and he's gone, but or whatever, you've lost your uniques or non-uniques, whatever they had, but either way, just move on, you know.
I mean, you guys were somewhat forgiving with this. You didn't make it so that they take your items.
Yes, that would have been good.
That's an event at some point.
Don't give me that idea.
That's maybe a 1 week event or something in the future.
Pretty easy to do.
Just take one of your items.
Yeah.
Losing your items
in the system where you can find them and
horrible.
try and get it back in the future.
You need the Tame Rogue Exile gem.
I don't tame's the right.
Higher
Exile.
You run up and you can quickly be like, take 1 million gold.
Just give him a little snack. Like, yeah, you want to follow me?
I mean, to be fair, that would be a fun system.
It actually would. That's actually not a bad
running
idea.
up and just being like, hey, I'm here, give me 100,000 gold and I'll be your ally.
I know you've tinkered with the idea of a hireling system at points in the past, so now you've got your
I would like hirelings.
system, right?
It worked really well in Diablo 2.
One with good uniques.
We'll see. We'll see.
Going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here.
Yep.
So we did have some League mechanics come over from Path of Exile 1, 2, Path of Exile 2. You're going to be looking to port more over? Are you going to be doing some unique ones that we haven't seen before?
I mean, we're definitely going to be doing more unique ones that are, that are just completely different outside of what we've done on PoE 1. Absolutely. But I mean, I think that like sort of the hope in the long term is that each, like, as we kind of get, past the end of early access and as we're sort of, just going out, that each time we do something, we're both adding a completely new League mechanic, but also potentially bring something back as well, kind of like as another additional kind of like, here's another fun thing. So that's probably sort of what I imagine will happen. But it kind of really is case by case. Like some things we don't want to bring back, some things we do, like, and my opinion can change on a dime as well. Like if someone suggests like a new way to interpret something, then I might be like, oh, actually that is great. So, it honestly, people assume that we have a full plan of literally everything, but it's like in reality, it's like it's very much responsive to like what's happening and like the actual plan relates to the things that like are definitely happening. Right? You're talking acts, you're talking classes, you're talking like all that stuff is like definitely like that's happening. It takes a long time to produce. It sort of happens in the background. You've got outsources, armies of people kind of working on that stuff, and then all the kind of like more incidentally stuff is very much like, oh, let's do something cool. Let's just make this. Why do we do this? And we don't have a I don't have a plan for the next 12 strong boxes. It's just just come up with an idea and like that's cool. Just a fun little project for a designer to work on.
How do you feel like some of the ones that were, I felt somewhat definitively part of Exile 1 in terms of clear speed, like Breach, for example, have settled into PoE 2? Do you feel like they're in a good spot, or were they a good idea to bring over to the game?
Look, I think Breach is, Breach is fun, right? I certainly wouldn't want to remove it. I don't know about, there's probably been some balance changes to it.
It was one or too many.
It has.
Yeah, let's just say that without a doubt.
It's much better now to PoE 2 standards, yeah.
It's too, currently on PoE 2, it's just too out of control. It just needs to chill. Right. There was a little bit of an assumption made.
I love Breach.
Well, you'll get overwhelmed by monsters, and it's more a matter of survive as long as you can. And then, of course, because you get self-propagating herald builds that are just literally can kill anything.
Which, by the way, heralds don't self-propagate anymore.
Okay, so you got the drop, Mr. Blue?
Get that out of the way right now.
The power of the characters kind of distorted the league balance in a way where it's like we have to, make some changes. So yes, like it's coming down a bit.
I think we saw that one coming.
Yeah, well, 100%. Look, there's a lot of things people will say they saw coming, but it certainly does end up being the case that like the patch notes are. So by the way, we aren't releasing them at the end of this live stream. We're going to be releasing them next week. But they are going to feel like a bit of a nerf fest for sure, because there's a lot of things that needed to get.
Let's talk about.
You get notification up here.
My expectations and anticipations are that this first one is going to be an absolute wrecking ball of chaos and carnage, and see where things land.
Yeah.
But then maybe over time it'll become a sledgehammer, and then like a fine carpenter hammer.
Sure, that definitely should be the case.
As I said earlier, it's like 10,000 things will change this time.
Yeah.
5,000 things will change next time. Then hopefully we can
Yeah,
halve
yeah.
it every single time.
People should really be going in with the expectation that like nothing they knew about how the game was balanced before is the
Forget
same.
everything.
Just
I'm not
forget
sure
everything-
then.
Forget everything you know. Like, you know, it's- exactly. So yeah, basically we'll that kind of just means that like, you know, everyone who's finding builds, like do it again. Like look, you are going to find
Other
more
notifications,
shit that is
though.
like outrageously broken again, but it is not going to be the same shit that was broken before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attribute stacking, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. So I mean, it's the hope is though that yes, you're right. It'll stabilize to the point, like I it will take time, but we will get to the point where we no longer have things that are easy to become outrageous with. Right, like the idea is like it shouldn't be that you can just slap a combination of supports together and then like you're just like destroying pinnacles in 14 seconds. You know, like it should be that.
14's a long time.
Yeah, okay, sure. But
What do you mean 14? That sounds like terrible.
Yeah,
Builds. That's not
exactly.
even on PoE.
Yeah, no,
Ninja.
but that's what I'm saying is with no items, right? But anyway, so the point is that like the first time you fight a pinnacle, it should be a bit of a fight. But then of course you do get back to the ability after, you know, like when like kind of like continuing to expand, like continue to develop your character post pinnacle to the point of being able to annihilate them in seconds.
Yeah.
But it's just like that has to be earned. It can't just be that like just a combination of supports that you can get trivially will do that.
Or like a common unique, you know, and then that's it.
Yeah, exactly,
you know,
right?
and-
So,
yeah.
but it can be. But but if you get temporalis, you know, it's like, well, now, you know, like now you've
Now
got
you're zooming.
you've got some shit going on. But it really has to be that, you know, there is an economic factor involved in becoming ridiculous.
Yes.
And so it's when that's not the case that we have a problem that we need to hit shit with a big giant balance sledgehammer.
Yeah, so originally I was going to come in and like ask about all the specific things, but we can just assume that like it's not going to be chaos. So
Yeah.
I like the idea instead of focusing on kind of like your core. What are you aiming for? What are your goals? What are your metrics? So a number.
Okay, the audio
of,
cut out for a
like,
second.
Damage / how fast you kill a pinnacle boss.
Yeah.
That you're aiming for, and then how much players can exceed that, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So it really should be that you're not as I said, not killing pinnacle bosses that fast at the moment. Like a good sort of benchmark for like just a guy walks in and like has kind of got something that's like not stupid, but also like not like doing something, you know, like not crazy. And we kind of imagine that they should have about 50k DPS doing something like that. But at the same time, anything up to 500k DPS is
10 times
you know is
fine.
also okay. And well, that'll take you from taking a 3-minute fight down to like a 20-second fight. Like, you know, that's your range of like potentially acceptable
Yeah.
kind of things going on. But if you're doing above that, then you're in like we're probably going to nerf you territory at some point. So that's kind of like thing. Now it's worth mentioning that like we've lowered like life of pinnacle bosses to get that to be right, and sort of things like the difference between a T15 boss and a pinnacle boss was just way too much. So that has been that's been sorted out. Like it's things like that we just need to sort of get things in the right place here. So that's a sort of expectation. Now, obviously, people are going to still find ways to get 10 million DPS somehow, I'm sure, even though we're like nerfing many things. But the thing I think that when we're talking about nerfs and how we want to do, my key thing that I want to try and achieve always is that whenever we're nerfing something, we're only nerfing the thing that was particularly like we're nerfing as little as possible to make it so that the average Joe who works in and just tries to do stuff is not getting affected by it.
Yeah.
Like it should only be the like ridiculously broken synergy thing that kind of like has some way of dealing with it that's actually affected by this. And I'm struggling to think of an example off the top of my head. Maybe you've got some of like, you know, a way that a targeted nerf that kind of
Well,
like
I mean, like say lightning conduit, you're not going to reduce the base damage of it because someone's able to hit for 150 million with one hit from it. Like that comes from the compounding, like top end levels of exposure, stacking, conductivity, and more so shock effect. Right.
Hey,
So
thanks
if
for
you
the follow.
wanna, like take away from the shock effect scaling side of
Jim,
things there.
appreciate
and
it.
Increase the base damage even. You know, like
Yeah,
do changes like that where it's like for an average person, it's now.
I
Bigger
jumped a
for
little bit.
someone who is
I'm a little tired.
absolutely, abusing's not the right word because like they're doing the right thing
Yeah, yeah,
technically
sure.
by their standards.
Yeah.
That are using all those extreme factors, you know, bring those down a little bit, keep those regulated, and like it'll increase the average user's experience while narrowing, you know, bringing this down and bringing this ideally up a little bit in a lot of cases.
I like the idea that I felt it's somewhat reassuring to hear that there was actually kind of like a math here.
Was
Like,
that me, Mr.
ultimately
Blue?
you're saying bosses have
The
X amount
stream
of
cut
hit
out,
points.
now
It
it's
has
back,
500k
okay.
hit points. and so we expect players around 50. Yes.
Right.
So that's a clear number. Like we know that. Oh yeah, and we're okay with you killing that like 10 times faster than we expect.
Right.
But it's when you get it down to 1 second.
Exactly.
Then we're
10,
like,
10 times is fine, right?
Then the
Oh,
problem
cool.
with
All right,
the
so
more
it's working.
DPS you
Nice.
have, it is now I have to dodge less.
yeah,
I get more crowd control.
there's a snowball.
This guy
it
is
really
insane.
So
Valve
you're
Factory
always gonna
enjoyer.
Be incentivized
I
to
hate
do
the
that.
Valve Factory.
And, yeah, you get to this weird thing where now it's just like, okay, well, I think you after
It's
a while
fun,
was
but
like,
hard.
I haven't actually seen a pinnacle boss fight that lasted more than 2 seconds.
That was really sad to me. Probably the saddest thing about the early access launch to me was seeing the first pinnacle boss fight, and it just like, and it's like, oh, you know, like it's like nobody had to care about the mechanics. The first time
I gave
was
it so
fought.
many skills.
Exactly, right? Like there's so many skills and all these things, and it's like none of it mattered. It's like that's sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ideally was in a situation. Now I hope that doesn't happen again, but honestly, it's probably wishful thinking.
As I said,
yeah, yeah.
10,000 things before, there's still going to
Yeah,
be
there's still going to be
many
more, and it will
thousand.
happen every time, and
It's-
people will find stuff, but yeah.
Look, this again by the end of early access, I want to say we're going to be in a real fucking good spot with this in
Yeah,
a way
yeah.
that is not going to have so much abusive stuff, and getting rid of that whole I feel like I have to play X. Like,
Yes,
it is
that,
very
100%.
demoralizing to players
Yes.
when they
Yeah.
played their thing,
Yes.
and all of a sudden something comes out, and they're like, oh.
Yeah. And so
change
the
over
way
this.
you will know that we're successful is because you get more diversity in classes.
I like that
Because
logic.
It means that there's no longer the thing that everyone has to play because it's easy to be
I mean,
successful.
you definitely saw that where it's like
Yeah.
the comments of any build guide. It's like, oh, another Archmage build. Oh,
Exactly.
oh, it's just Heralds again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like
but
this isn't even a build. This
go-
is just Herald again.
You go look at like what are all crossbow people playing, and crossbows is
Herald.
actually the least used weapon type, and so you specifically start there, and you're like, okay, well here's a bunch of people using these skills: hand of wisdom in action, hand of wisdom in action, hand
Oh,
of
yeah.
wisdom. Okay, well never mind. The crossbows are relevant, right?
Yeah,
Like-
even without stat stacking, it's still better.
Yeah,
than
and it's
Herald,
like,
so-
okay, well, you know, obviously take some away from there, and then it's like, okay, well, what are you left with? Well, you're still left with probably crossbows are bad, so what do you have to do? And it's like, you know,
Buff the crossbows.
now, for example, just a quick change is like, instead of using one-handed damage mods for added damage, they use two-handed and their base damage. And then all the skills now have a higher growth per level because they scale with other external factors like attack speed less because they have the reload time. So
Yeah.
they will be getting more damage per level, whereas before, most skills were very consistently growing per level. So almost every spell would get the same amount of damage per level, regardless of everything else it had. And this is how you got things like Spark just being the dominant skill, you know, out of control, because it scales not only that, it scales obviously the number of projectiles kind of out of control, and with projectile and duration and other multiplicative scaling factors, you'll end up with just like, well, of course I'm just going to Spark everywhere. And so now it's like, well, Spark has these other multiplicative things, so it should get less damage per level. And this was in PoE 1 and was the right answer, and we somehow didn't replicate that exact thing that we did.
Yeah, everything
So-
just had the same damage growth.
Yes, we end up with the exactly same. So now every single skill we're looking at it and going, you're going to scale more, you're going to scale less, you're going to scale more on the damage axis because they have other things that scale.
And this just means that, like, when you're asking, well, what skills have changed? Well, the answer is literally all of them. Like,
Yes.
no skill will have the same damage as before. It's like a complete, a complete rebalance of the
And
whole thing.
expectation-wise, it means that any skill that didn't have a lot of things you could do for it will get more damage. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
what it
that
does.
should be the case. But I mean, even as well, like when we're looking at things like, I sort of mentioned it vaguely before, but like I'm trying to make sure, like we are trying to make sure that like the combos that work early game still work late game, which is kind of another important element of that too.
Yeah. So crossbow's been buffed a lot, and I also heard the other thing that was definitely getting a lot of buffs is Warrior as well.
I mean,
All right, Warrior talk.
We'll see how that looks. I mean,
Everything.
Oh, come on.
Everything
yeah.
up and everything down.
Yeah.
It's so hard to
Yeah,
even
yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so hard to have like a cohesive message with a single like this class is better
yeah.
because it's just, I mean, it's easy for mercenary skills or for crossbow skills because
Yeah.
I can look at those numbers and just be like, okay, everything's clearly higher.
Yeah.
But then in others, it's like it's
Well,
it's
that's
too
the thing
easy
with
to
Warrior.
say.
Is like
yeah.
Warrior was like in many cases there was a lot of things that it was actually not bad.
Yeah.
Like it was good in many ways.
But then it didn't
Warrior's
have
fun.
anything that was outrageously broken like how the other classes did. in
Yeah,
the same
and it
way.
didn't gel with all players in many ways as well.
Oh, yeah. We've also done balance changes on literally every ascendancy class as well.
Yep.
You know,
Chaos.
Pathfinder
Nice,
has
Mr. Blue.
like 2 extra notables and some changes. You've got a new notable on Chronomancer. You've got
Cool.
a changes to, like, you know, Chrono was way too much utility stuff. Like, was just my like good thing, you know. So like,
Go back to
got,
Warrior
like, a
talk.
good
My
thing,
bonk node.
You know, less niche, more something. And then we've just done that on every single class. We've upped upped a lot of the undertaken or bad things, and we've downed a lot of the really good, powerful things that were over the top. So
this is why we've gone back to the more conventional patch note cycle of a couple of days beforehand, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely.
If they were ready, you would have them. They're not ready because we're not finished, right? Like, and giving someone half the balance changes doesn't allow them to even make educated decisions on what they're going to play.
So it's just completely pointless at that point.
So we'd rather give you everything all at once instead of just some like here's.
But even once you have the patch notes, like, don't even be under the mistaken illusion that you'll be somehow able to determine what the best builds are from that. Like, this because it's such a big difference.
It's hard to take things into context because you can look at it and say, oh, okay, so like this thing got buffed, but this thing got nerfed. It's like, okay, but you're linking just two things. You're not linking all of the other things.
Yeah, exactly. So
we'll try.
What about armor?
Sure.
Any armor talk?
Do your best.
Look, when the game released, you had to learn everything. You just might have to do it again and again. Every single patch every major patch after this, you're going to have
one more week for
of
notes.
that, and your familiarity will be able to come in and be useful. So at least from a balance perspective at this point, like it's not like we've structurally changed the campaign and all that. So you have still a lot of information and knowledge that is going to help you play the game better anyway on your second. I mean, a lot of people maybe made multiple characters, but for a lot of people this might just be their second character. Yeah. So they're certainly going to be more equipped. And we've had the races, so you've been able to see how the best people play.
Oh yeah. There's definitely some good tips to learn from there. Oh yeah. That lever skip with the portal. Oof, beautiful. It's my favorite. On the slightly bigger picture as well, like life and armor versus energy shields, are you happy with kind of where either of those are at, or what do you kind of hope to achieve with them?
Energy shields certainly, I mean, primarily due to Grim Feast. And like mana stacking being a little bit out of control that's been too strong on more the inside of defense for sure. Expect some pretty drastic changes there. As for armor,
armor.
It's one of those like accuracy kind of things, right? Where it's like or dexterity and like where it's like honestly our next point with that is honestly just to get in a room and just be like, all right, let's pretend it didn't exist and we were coming up with a game from scratch and we're like, okay, we have strength. What would we want the ideal defense to be? And honestly, it might even extend further than that. And really just see, firstly, to make sure we end up, if we don't end up at the same point, make sure we end up as better. Maybe we do end up at the same point and we do just go, okay, here are some other changes that we need to make around physical damage in particular or something like that. But it's one of those things where at this point we just need to like review it from literally back to basics and see where we end up, because it might be something completely different, but like it might also end up being relatively the same, and maybe it was the better answer. But either way, it's worth the discussion and worth the time, because it's, I wouldn't say we're happy with it, and I wouldn't say we're necessarily like all the way unhappy with it, but it's there's something not quite right going on for sure.
You're still fundamentally questioning some of these things and willing to go back to the drawing board on them, which is quite interesting.
Well, 100%.
And this is the time to do it.
We drastically changed how evasion works, and I would say it's for the better, and we should be exploring that with everything, and so we just need to do that process still.
Sounds like no updates.
That being said, as we make things more like the shield block better, as we buff the ascendancies or nerf them in on the other defensive arcs, things like armor will become better. But again, it's not quite right, but I don't have enough information to say where it will look, what it will look like in the future. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
We're talking about the future of next week. So there's no update for the future of next week.
Early on, ExileCon discussions about.
He's like, for the next patch, armor.
Nothing. So that you could have situations where you're attritioned, or where like the hit that you took matters for the next hit that you take, and you just back up the full. But it's pretty good in boss fights, honestly. I feel like recovery is somewhat limited. That still happens a bit, but certainly in clearing, you have access to tons of recovery with cannibalism and things like that.
It's certainly out of control, and it's a little bit of, again, partly due to the fact that kill speed and clear speed just was way higher than we had expected and what we balanced around. And because if we were balancing around what people are currently doing with the upper echelons of builds, you'd have to have effectively every average player and average build just could be completely, it would be useless for them. Now there are ways around that, of course, but part of it is like a lot of the recovery mechanics, like if you're talking about things like on kill and based on damage dealt, it is a rich get richer problem. And so yes, there are cases that are problematic, and then there are just characters that are too strong. And there's a little bit of both going on. I wouldn't say we've targeted any recovery specifically here, really.
Okay.
Like, it's not been a main goal. I'm not going to say that there aren't little bits changed here and there, but it's more about, we've really made sure to just... it's kind of hard to say exactly what we've done because, again, this is probably a thing we're going to have to look at next time because there are so many changes that it is hard to even, understand how this is going to fit into
Once
all
the
of that
dust
now.
clears, you might be able to see how recovery is looking.
100%. Like, we're at the point where we do need a little bit of all right, we need another round of testing for this because,
Yeah.
and again, I'm going to stress it is actually impossible for the amount of changes for us internally to be able to be certain or test all of this.
Yeah, but the vision is still that idea of like more stricter recovery or less powerful recovery than what.
Well, it shouldn't certainly be like here's one little piece and now it's fully solved, right? Like having heaps of recovery should be something you can achieve, but it should require a decent amount of investment or high tier item itemization, right? Like for sure
That's
it
a good
should
summary.
be possible. It just shouldn't be trivial.
Yeah. So, and on that note, then, for like vision, what's your vision of what Path of Exile 2 is supposed to be? Because I think some people are still like unsure about, is it supposed to be just kind of more like Path of Exile 1, a faster game, or is it supposed to be a slower game, a much more different
question right
thing?
here.
Like, this is a hard thing to communicate,
Yeah,
but it gets asked a lot, and I feel like people are still a bit unsure.
It's funny though because like once again it's not, I don't view it as just a pure speed question. It's about like, is the combat engaging and fun?
Yeah.
And also, are you getting to the point where you never get to engage with bosses? Like if you're never if the first time you fight a boss you just destroy it without seeing any of its mechanics, then that's a problem. And it doesn't really say anything about the pace of combat. Like if you look at some of the Huntress stuff we've got there, like it's incredibly fast paced when it comes to like dashing around and stuff, but you still have to engage with things, and that's the key element for us. So like obviously players want to get ridiculously powerful, and we still want to let them get ridiculously powerful. It just has to be earned. It has to be like after a certain point, and like after you like once you have finished your character, once you've sort of done everything, then yeah, you should be just like like crazy and like beyond the point of any of all reason. It's just that you have to earn it, you have to get there, right? And like that's the power growth thing. That's like, it's really hard to sort of just like smoothen that out across the whole game, but like that's ultimately the goal, right? You have to kind of get to the point of like that you constantly feel you're getting stronger. You always feel like the next, like, oh, I got this and now I'm better and now I'm better and now I'm better, and you keep on going, and you have to scale that all the way to the end, because the moment that you get to the point where you're just trivializing everything too early, it's like, well, the rest of the game just becomes boring after that point, right? There has to be,
point.
there's the level of that you still have to get.
And so, kind of based on that earlier discussions about like damage and boss time to kill and things like that, it sounds like the time where you want that to be starting to taper off, like the players can start to cheat that a bit, is after they've done pinnacle bosses.
Well, you should feel that way multiple times throughout the game. But then later you still then get to a new level of challenge that
You
still
find
requires you
something
to
else.
engage again. Like if we're doing our job correctly, it's like you reach a point of feeling like you're a god, and then you're like, oh shit, but there's new god-like shit above me that then makes me have to then
Now
do
I have to find the uber gods.
exactly right. So you have to keep on with that train. And it's actually really hard to take you back from feeling like, oh, I'm all powerful, back down to like I'm feeling, and so you have to kind of get that in there as you go
want that
out.
Dragon Ball anime arc.
Yeah,
where
for sure, right?
There's always a new level of Super Saiyan
exactly,
after the previous one.
exactly, right? That's what you have to be able to do, and so yeah, it's just smoothly taking you up that power level curve, all the way to the end.
Yeah, so I think like when it comes down to things like movement speed when clearing, it's about like if you're able to just ignore everything because you're moving so fast.
Exactly. If you're able to ignore everything, then you obviously you will move really fast. If you're not able to ignore everything, suddenly your clear speed is like not as big a thing. So long as there are still things that are challenging you, as long as you reach the next tier and like everything's harder in, then you're good.
I feel like a point of the difficulty here between the communication of this with you guys and some of the people in the community is that I feel like you're not really looking at it in terms of PoE 1 versus 2. You're just trying to answer that question specifically.
Yeah.
So it's not really about like it being like PoE 1 or 2.
Exactly,
it's
right? It's just about making the combat good.
It's either the combat is fun or it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of spectrum of stuff there, but I would say that you want to be able to engage with the boss, you want to be able to fight its mechanics and do its skills, and you want to feel like you can overcome those over time and get better, and you want to engage with monsters, and there's probably some people who are like, no, I don't. I want to just press a button and loot drops on the ground, and I don't have to look or do anything. And
well, so that's an interesting point. Is there's this let's say the quote unquote mythical average build is are they able to switch their brain off and watch Netflix on a second monitor only if they're doing like maps 3 levels under what they should be doing or something, or should that be able to happen at kind of like
once
where they're
you're
at
at your tier of godhood,
Yeah,
for
but,
that.
but I actually want to address that because, like, okay, so I'm watching. Well, okay, right now I'm watching Deep Space Nine, funnily enough, but you know, I'm watching Deep Space Nine as I'm playing, as I'm testing the game, right? It's like you develop a muscle memory, and that muscle memory can include using multiple skills and doing like multiple things, and that's still to me more engaging than just holding down a button, you know?
So you're saying this, like watching things on the secondary things and about the game being easy, it's just a skill issue. You need to get good
I wouldn't say
enough
that. I'm
to-
just saying that you like
Skill issue, okay.
Your muscle memory can develop for more than just using a single skill. You just, you know, like and we've always sort of said that there's this thing where, like, okay, sometimes you pause the show, right? Sometimes that happens because you come to a thing that's
this is an update to the classic, you know, second
I
monitor
love how the
Netflix thing.
friggin' watching something on the second screen has become such a
I know,
fundamental part
it's just,
of the...
it's just the community's just grabbed it and it's become a thing forever. But
Well,
it's been updated now. Like, this is the update. You want
It
you want
was-
them to have to pause
It was a
sometimes.
philosophy set for a different
because I feel
game,
like I've
but-
said that 10 years ago about how, like, sometimes you get the spike in difficulty.
It'll
like,
haunt
oh
you
shit,
forever.
you know, like now you have to do this. But yeah, I guess that turns into pause the video at this point. But yeah, but no, but look, if I play this way as well, right? Like, it's not like I'm, you know, like once you get to a certain point, it's like, you know, obviously you're going to want to, you know, the music, you've heard it lots of times, you know, like you want to have something else going on. That's fine. But I still think that there needs to be
Debatable.
the ability to have. You know, to have something engaging from time to time that you know you have to deal with. So, yeah.
It's always been a bit of a silly thing because you've got so much element of choose your own difficulty in Path of Exile, right? Like,
Exactly.
do harder maps, do easy
Yeah,
maps.
But I mean, but look, people always want to choose the hardest stuff, right? So therefore,
Yeah.
that's what they're judging it against.
That's true, you
And
do
so
have to
that's
account
why
for
you
that.
do need a level of economic gating to make it so that, like, you know, you can't go too far with difficulty without, you know, without having to prove the economic stuff on some level, so that you can.
Yeah, you're dying
So
and
you're
losing the map.
dying, exactly, you're dying and losing the map. Yeah, that we have to think, like, all that map sustain stuff is so tricky for that reason. Like, getting
Yeah.
that exactly right. Yeah.
It sounds like some big advancements in that regards. So I've got some kind of random tail questions here. Are you planning in the future on, I don't think it's probably happening this time around, but on changing campaign pacing at all? Like, I feel like some of the zones are probably a bit too large and a bit too empty.
I mean, that's more about adding more stuff to them than it is about making them smaller.
Yeah.
Like, there's still a lot more events in campaign that we haven't added yet that
Yep.
still need doing. There's like big lists of, you know, things that we never got time to do. So we'll keep on getting to those.
The
doing them.
argument there, which I do believe in, is an area should be able to be large if it has enough interesting things. The
Right.
frequency of interesting things is high
Yeah.
or
I mean,
consistent.
yeah, like the size of an area is completely right. Like, imagine there were no load screens. You just walked from place to place. Like, you wouldn't be thinking about area size exactly. It's just, is the density of interest enough? You know, like the fact that there happens to be a load screen between one place and the other is not
Yeah,
really the relevant
long
element.
is directly
Yeah.
proportional to
To-
interesting.
Yeah, exactly, right? So yeah, so to me,
one thing we do
It's just
need to
backtracking's problem with
do
big
and we
maps,
have
though.
done in some areas is just making sure that if it is a large area, it's not just interesting things to find as well. It's also making sure there's enough monster variety that way
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not just so repetitive. Of
yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah, where you've got like almost different biomes. in
there are
areas.
some where I would say the area is large enough, or you're in there long enough such that there isn't enough monster variance, and so it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gets a bit repetitive.
But yeah, it's completely true that anytime someone says, "Oh, this area is too large," I'm like, "Well, okay, so what monsters are we changing? What events are we adding? That kind of stuff, right? Because that's the way that you change it around. Like, there are areas that are very large that no one complains about because they're, you know, stuff.
Because they got a
fine,
lot-
the
they got a
fun
lot
There's
of
things
things
also
and
like
stuff
there
going
are
on.
good. I don't know how many people are gonna play this or how many people stop playing before 011, but like it's worth noting again. Like areas have like the fast travel thing now as well.
Yeah.
To
It's certainly a big
Fast
part.
travel helps
checkpoints
a lot.
And, there's some of that stuff which I'm hoping again when people start playing from scratch they get to see a lot of the improvements we did before as
Yes.
well and see how they feel
And
about it
it's
again.
worth mentioning through campaign, we've got both the wisps and there's also strong boxes as well through campaign.
Yep.
Like, they feel a little bit different. Is, you know, there's just as you play through, you're certainly finding some things you wouldn't have
Shrines
last time.
soon.
couple more
soon.
shrines.
Yeah, yeah,
soon.
yeah, yeah.
The what's it?
Shrines.
Oh,
We'll
shrine.
have them actually in the
Oh.
campaign soon.
Cool.
All right, nice.
Art wasn't quite done, right? Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, it might be a bit weird. The ones in the end game, it works a little bit better narratively, but using that asset throughout the campaign, it would feel real random. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of as soon as the art's done, chucking those in as well.
Oh, great. So that could be after
Ah,
release. but-
it'll certainly be shortly after.
But
Yeah.
also, like, every time
Awesome.
we do like that we're expecting people to play through again, like, we'll probably tweak like which content spawns in different areas and we'll just like fiddle around a bit so that then you play it just feels a bit fresh and you know things going on there.
Yeah, you kind of got me there. I feel like each of the zones I'm trying to think of that like feel like they're way too big is like they're also just coincidentally empty.
Yes.
So I guess that is maybe
Well,
perhaps more the
it's
issue.
it's the exact same problem happens in maps, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about that, like
Yep,
the
exact
boring
same.
empty map.
Yeah, when
problem.
the maps, when people say the map's too big, yeah, just not.
I think
it's
I
content.
think I phrased it to
So-
Jonathan yesterday when we were talking about it as every screen looks the same as every other screen. It
But
wouldn't
th-
matter
this
where
is
I'm
the-
standing in the map. It would look.
I think the map you were talking about was Step.
Yeah,
Like
that
we were
was-
looking at Step and
yes.
being like, okay, well, what's actually like?
It's a big square.
Yeah, and there's nothing going on in it. And even if there was stuff going on, I mean, like it's funny because like it took us a little while to even come to an understanding of like what
Yeah.
needed to change there. Because I'm sort of saying like, okay, well, you know, like it's very random. So it's like, you know, do you find the cold plains in D2 as to be a boring area because it's ultimately kind of similar? But the answer is, well, there's buildings sometimes, and you get like, you know, there's just like there's just a little more going on in that way. So like we need to make sure that maps feel that way too.
That's a good point.
Yep.
There has been a few pervasive crashes and issues like that.
Oh
so
god,
how's
yes,
that
yes.
going?
Well, I'll tell you what, the entire engine team have basically been entirely focused on that for 3 months, and it's been horrible because. So I mean, it's kind of a long story, and I don't know if I should go into all of it, but ultimately, the issue is that on NVIDIA cards, the remaining issue at least is that on NVIDIA cards, if you're using a driver that's bigger than I think 560 point something, like basically after that point, the game crashes, and if you install an older driver than that, it doesn't. If the crash happens in the driver in the GPU, NVIDIA is just like not really much help, you know, like, and so it's like just trying to nail down what even caused it. It's just so hard when it's like, and the thing that sucks about it is like it won't reproduce on anywhere except production and alpha, and like the moment you look at it, like we can't reproduce it anymore, and yet for some people it happens all the time, and it's just like it's so horrible.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the what we've done. We actually come up with a somewhat ridiculous idea that was now implementing, which we're going into 020 with, by the way, which is that, and this will seem stupid, but like, how about we just don't crash? Which
You tell me about this.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what we do is what we're now changing it to is that if the GPU driver crashes, what we do is we create a new. A new device, and then upload all the textures to that. The game is paused while this is happening, and then it unpauses, and then the game keeps going. And so that is what we're doing to solve this crash. And it's like it's kind of
Interesting.
ridiculous that this has to be the solution, because like it's just mysteriously in the NVIDIA driver we have like. And we have tried to find a workaround for this. It is just like so difficult.
I use Vulkan
And,
instead of DirectX
so
12,
that-
which helped me
in
out quite a
020,
bit.
That's what will happen. So
While we're here, like, do
Yeah.
the players have a workaround? Like,
well,
just to get you out, like-
you can install the driver earlier than.
Sure. What
than
about like
560.
what about Vulkan? Does that matter?
Yeah, Vulkan mode.
Yes, well, but no, not entirely. It does still happen in Vulkan, but it's a bit unclear about that particular thing about whether or not
Vulkan helped me at least.
I figured it might
No,
be
no,
a good
it
opportunity
is
if there is a workaround to tell people.
it is in the driver. But I mean, yeah, like if you install an older driver, it will go away. Like
So all of this time, when people have been saying the classic armchair developer meme, it was like, why don't you just add a bit of code that says if crash equals false?
yeah, well, you know, something like
It
that.
works.
Basically do the engineering
They
to
were
allow
right.
us to just recreate the entire like GPU context,
Don't
and then there you go,
crash.
and then don't crash, and that is actually the
Amazing.
solution we're now going with. But it's like the thing is, the other one that sucked though was that stupid damn full system freeze. Because I'll tell you what, if the entire system freezes, there is just nothing you can do to find out what the hell caused it. Because, like, you know, there's no like
report.
crash report, there's no logging, there's no literally nothing, right? And it's like that happened. That happened when the Windows November H2 update shipped, and then things just started mysteriously freezing. And my God, that was hard to track down. And you know, you ask Microsoft about it, and they're like, "Oh, we'll look into it." And it's like nothing happens. You know, it's like Jesus Christ, guys. Like, you know, like it's so annoying.
I can feel your frustration
Yes,
is
it's
palpable.
incredibly frustrating because it's like we want nothing better than to fix this shit. So that one was fixed. Like, there was some spin lock implementation that like. I don't have any understanding of why it causes this to happen, but we tweaked it a bit and now it doesn't happen anymore. And it's like there's no rational reason why this should cause the
That's
operating system
frustrating.
to freeze. And it's like there's not even a good answer at the end. There's not even like, oh, here's what was wrong. It's just like this random particular sequence of operations being done causes your entire system to freeze for no reason after this Windows update. And it's like, well, cool, like what do you do about that? Like it's just terrible. And so yeah,
You can tell his frustration by the excitement
but
in his voice.
Basically now, I mean, it's funny because we've fixed so many crashes that weren't the crash. So like general stability,
other crash
apart
is
from that
fixed.
crash, is incredibly
Like
good now.
99%
Yeah, like-
down, probably
And it's like,
99.99%.
and it's like, the thing is, we'll fix a crash, and we'll be like, oh, maybe this is the crash, and then it fixes like 2% of crashes, and you're like, well, that wasn't the crash, but at least it looks good to fix, right? Like, it's so annoying. But as I said, we have a workaround now
That's good.
that will basically recreate the graphics device if
So you might get a
if it crashes.
pause and then
You'll get a pause for
unpause.
3 seconds and then like roughly depending on
sounds like
hardware,
a
and then it will
good
continue and the game will pause at the
Yeah,
the
I
thing.
obviously just make it clear we don't want it to remain like that, obviously.
Yes. Obviously, we'll still try and fix it, but at least it means you're not crashing, and you're certainly not freezing anymore. That's sorted out.
Yeah.
And then, we found another one recently, which was like, okay, so this is another stupid one, right? Like, so anyway, so there's that whole like Intel CPU issue, like on 13th and 14th generation Intel CPUs, where like there's some freaking voltage regulation problem that causes CPUs to break in a certain way. And if that happens, then like the thing that will break is that like the decompressor will like it'll decompress something and like one bit of it will be wrong, like literally one bit in there, and then it fails like a hash check, and then that just causes the game to crash. And so the fix, like, it's like things like that will happen as well. Like you've got stuff like that, and it's like, well, once again, it's like it is our problem. We have to fix it because it's affecting real users. But like the solution to stuff like that, is just so annoying to find. And so yeah. Anyway.
It sounds like you've improved a lot of the unrelated crashes, and you've come up with a good workaround at least.
Yeah,
now
at least
for that
hopefully.
One.
But yeah,
So that sounds like a massive improvement. But I
Yeah.
also just think your obvious frustration is very validating for people who have been frustrated with this.
Exactly, but the thing that's the most annoying about it is that like all these the engine team who are spending time fixing this, they're not able to spend time working on performance issues, which is something else that we need to be obviously improving over time. There's been a few performance improvements, but like not nearly the number we would have had if we had all 7 of those people
tied up with
like
this.
like working on performance improvements.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
that's been the most frustrating thing about it.
Crashes first. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
100%. But it's like when they're kind of
We have been chipping away at some decent ones, though.
Yeah, no, we have. Yeah,
we
those
got
different
some
improvements. Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good performance problems resolved.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, there was
they
that
were,
ice one that was really bad.
Yeah.
And, there was things like that. So, like, the worst offenders
Nice.
we're certainly fixing. But, and like, I have no doubt by the time we get, each time we do a new release, it'll be even better.
Great.
But, and by the time we get a full release, I'm sure it'll be, like, very good.
And I mean, speaking of, I know it's like tangential sort of as well. Obviously, we had a lot of woes around the release, but we've done a whole lot of back-end engineering work to make it.
Yes,
the
yes,
launch
yes.
is-
So, the launch should go smoother as far as, like, all
I mean, it was
of
pretty
the technical
good.
stuff. It was.
Wow, it still
But-
was 5 hours of
Yeah,
not
yeah.
good.
Yeah, but like 5 hours compared
No,
to
no.
like,
This time.
days.
this
Well,
time-
they're addressing it, but
Standard.
I'm tempting fate here, but like
Let's
we're
see what else they
making
do with
significant
the-
improvements to the ability for the.
I really want to see the patch notes.
So
I
5
guess.
minutes this time.
Well, I mean, we'll see, right? You never know what's going to go
You
wrong,
always
but it should
sometimes
be
get
much
caught
better.
out by something random. and-
Yeah.
so-
It should be much better this time.
Yeah.
I hope you get enough players to stress your theory. 'cause
Yeah,
that's
true.
always the good thing to aim for.
Mhm.
We'll just run up with a couple of the random kind of chat questions before we finish up today.
Oh, chat questions
Any
now.
possibility of Ascendancy respecs? Is that something you've considered, especially with all the changes going on?
We're sort of not in love with it. It's just one of those things where like I feel like it's key to the identity of the character, and like respecing like the journey of the character, like it does get it's pretty significantly compromised if you allow for that. But I know Mark is especially strongly
Yeah,
feeling about it.
I mean, the answer is going to be the exact same as last time, which is like, I don't know exactly, or I don't know how to articulate exactly why I feel so strongly about this, and so do a lot of the team members. Of like, again, it's just that your choices should matter, and it's obviously something that I was okay with in PoE1, and so there is probably a world where I will be okay, but there's got to be some level of work involved to achieve it that isn't to just pay a little bit of gold and then you're done or whatever. Like, I want to find a way to do it if we're going to do it in a way that is like grounded
That's an
and
interesting idea.
and difficult to well, not I wouldn't say difficult, but like requires some actual work to do. So that would be the compromise I'd certainly be willing to explore, which I have been thinking about recently because I know every single time we come to an expansion, it's going to come up. So
The trial of respect questing or something.
Yeah, there'll be something where your character has to undergo some sort of challenge or something to do it. And I know you could argue, well, doing the trial is that, and you're
Gotta
not
make some
entirely wrong, but
sacrifices.
something a bit more.
Sacrifice a few
so
animals,
I'm
few thousand enemies.
I'm sure we'll have a conclusive decision, or at least a level of articulation one way or the other by the end of early access.
Alright.
But for now,
I'll ask you then.
yeah, it's just going to take me a bit more time to figure out what I want to do.
I wouldn't mind doing a trial once to respec, but I wouldn't have to do it
dynamic
if you want to keep
switching between keyboard
swapping,
and mouse
swapping back and
and
forth.
controller coming at all?
It's not in 020, but it will be coming.
It's on its way.
Yes, so
Work-
like,
being
and
worked
I'm
on.
really hoping by 030, like we should be able to get that. That is a very key feature.
It seems like it's going to be hard to loot juice maps with only one portal. Oh no, well, this question has already been answered. Well, actually no, because there's still one portal.
No, this is a concern.
that's
and we
true,
have to do
with
something
juice,
about it.
we have to
Yes,
figure
we
it
have
out,
to figure it out.
My
Yeah.
bad,
So
yeah.
in the next week, we will actually be looking into this one.
There's a few problems
Good
around
point.
it
Yeah.
still. There are other things to come up, like
Yep.
you know, you also don't want it to be that if you did use your one portal, because it's your portal that's used, not everyone's portal that's used. Because when it says
That's actually a
one
good
portal,
point. Yeah, it's a
that's
good point.
one
we didn't
portal
I think we
for
mentioned
up
that.
to 6 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when it's 6 portals, it's 6 portals for up to 6 players, which means technically it's 36 entries and exits out of the map, right? And like that changes things in a way where it's like when it's down to 1, it's like you don't want it to be that, oh, I failed the map. Quick, Ziggy, come join my party, get in here and finish it for me.
I would like a follow
You
option.
don't want to kind of have that style of play happening. So there is still some things we need to figure out with this because it's going to promote some what I would probably classify as degenerate behavior, as well as the fact that, yeah, you're probably like, oh, my inventory's full, zone out. Oh, what the? Okay, sweet. And sure, you can add a warning, but I don't know if even restricting it to just one inventory of loot like that.
Observer mode would be very nice.
I would personally prefer that it's one death, not one, entry. So there's some stuff we need to figure out, but again, Jonathan and I need to talk about that and actually solve that. So
That's interesting, yeah, because the death seems like the important part. So as long as it's not like a way to cheat it, it seems like almost like you'd want to allow people to come and go as they please until they die, right?
Yep, which is a potential solution.
Yeah.
But again, can't
Something
say for sure. But yeah, 100%. That person is right for bringing that up, and
is
it
a
is
real
on our
issue.
radar for this coming week to have, or weekend as well, to have a solution for.
Yeah. So with this new league not having a specific like league mechanic, is it still a challenge league? Does it still have challenges?
It's actually
No,
no,
there's
I
no,
didn't think
there's no
so.
achievements or challenges
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah. I'm pretty
these
sure
is-
we weren't going to do that
yeah.
for a little bit yet.
These
but
is, th-
yeah.
th- there's
Yeah.
not really, maybe later in early access, but for now, not really.
Yeah.
We're just trying to keep it more about
Make
the
the
game
game.
and the mechanics and less about,
Make the game first.
the achievements. And the achievements will certainly, an achievement system and stuff like that will certainly be there with the full release, and we'll reintegrate all of that at the time.
Is there any plans for Stash Tab expansions, like for example, rune storage?
Oh,
Especially with
100%.
more runes?
Right now, I'm actually trying to at least add the affinity without adding a custom tab.
Oh,
Those
good.
two things appeared from an implementation standpoint, so
Yeah.
I want to try and divorce them so we can have affinities without
we
it.
Oh, yeah.
wanted to get those in this patch, but unfortunately they just
Yeah.
didn't quite make it.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's actually quite likely to come in sometime,
It's-
like in a point release after,
Yeah.
like within the 020.
As soon as the patch is out and
yeah.
stable and we're
Yeah,
on
yeah,
top
yeah,
of things, it's going to be like, all right, we need to get all those like UX or quality of life
yeah.
things that we blatantly missed out on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
For
that-
example, like being able to add bookmarks to your atlas and
Yep,
write
that's,
the name.
that is one
that
that
is
we,
something
we
we are-
designed some stuff for it. We just
Yeah,
haven't got it yet.
cool.
I want to say it's
yeah.
like 80% implemented right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
we-
it'll be soon as we can. We'll get that in there.
All right, that is excellent. And on that note, we'll wrap things up today. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you very much for coming.
And
I
thank everyone
love
for
it.
watching.
Thanks for having me here. Great time. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'm Ziggy D, and thanks for watching.
They answer a lot, didn't answer a lot at the same time, but it's a lot to come over. So I can't rewind this yet until it's done, I believe, Mr. Blue. I want to go back to the Warriors section. What I might be able to do is I'm recording this while it's going on. So I'm going to turn off my recording right now, actually. And let me see if it made a record file. And let me see if I got this too while I'm here. Claim now. This error was occurred. Claim was not there. Why is it not there? I'll try it later, but I got a claim. Well, I didn't do these, so I don't know why it's shown there. All right, so the thing is done. So let me go ahead and open up my recordings. This should work now. Hopefully. All right, cool. So let's just jump to Warrior section.
We have the Smith of Katava.
Not there yet. So let's go here. So this is beyond it. So let's go back a little bit. All right. Trying to figure out what the warrior stuff is. There's this guy.
Various skills like suppressing fire.
It seems a little slow though. Still has my audio on it. Let me just do this a little before. Here's the witch. Alright, so I think we would have been back a little bit. Let's just double check it a little bit more. Breaching. Yeah, so the warrior would have been back more.
It's up to you.
I saw the warrior for a
We'll go
second.
through these all day, but we'll leave most of them for you to discover. Suffice to say, though, we want there to be way more cool things to find. Over time, our
No, it's not there. Let's find out where the warrior is mentioned. There's spirit stuff's pretty cool. Mercenary, great. All right. Let's look at this real quick.
a great
I'm gonna go ahead and mute the volume on here. There it is. So I'm gonna mute the volume on that. I'm gonna see what. Well, let's go ahead and volume back.
this ascendancy class tree looks a little abnormal, and you're right. There's a lot of notable skills all disconnected at the bottom there. By taking this point
Hey,
here,
thanks for the follow.
to a side, your character is unable to
Mishima. Mahub. I don't know how to say your first name. Sorry about that, but Mishima. Thank you for the follow.
put body armors with mods of any kind.
Okay, look at this. This was in the Path to Exile 1. Body armor also applies to chaos damage taken from hits. That's cool. So it allows you to get damage reduction to chaos, right? So it's not extra damage at the bear, but that's pretty cool.
So your body armor must be normal. Sounds like a downside, right? Except now in true blacksmith fashion, you get to craft your
Stun threshold.
body armor by taking those
Some of these things I don't really need. Regenerates 5% of life per second. Okay. Did I see an extra 20% increase in strength? That's pretty cool.
life. Take this notable. If you want
A life.
resistances, take this one.
So if you had 0 fire resistance, you just get 75% extra fire resistance right there.
There's so many choices. Think of it like you're
Lightning.
crafting your own body armor, just in a more literal sense. Now, let's move on to those who prefer.
The first one. So, Mr. Blue, anything else you want to see about Warrior? I mean, those are the ones I cared about. But was there anything else you cared about seeing about Warrior? We can go back to like the anvil type stuff they're doing beforehand. So you got living weapon. You got temper weapon.
Hunt. We've added a new ascension class for 3 of the other existing classes too. First up,
Warrior.
warriors out there.
Yeah.
We have the Smith of Katava. The warrior is a blacksmith in origin, taught by his father Renly. With this ascension, you can take your smithing skills to new
Let's watch this.
embracing power from the insatiable one himself, Kitava. Smiths of Katava are master blacksmiths and have the ability to forge their weapon, quite literally. Using the Against the Anvil notable skill, you can enhance your weapon with fiery destruction before any battle.
Hey, so if you want to go fire warrior, you add more fire damage to your weapon too.
Doing so,
Maybe.
attacks will release explosions on hit for maximum devastation.
Looks pretty cool.
You can also use the power of Kitava to summon an animated copy of your weapon to fight alongside you.
Oh, that's cool.
A great blacksmith can do more than just forging their weapon, though. Their armor can be enhanced too. Now you might think this...
Yeah, that's pretty much it for warrior right there. So, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if I like this better than Titan. I like Titan quite a bit, actually. But I like the fact they added the apply armor to chaos. Right? That's pretty cool. There's a bunch of them they didn't show. I don't know what these skills do yet. But the thing I liked about Titan Warrior was that you got, 50% extra from your passive skills, right? And I like the use of the two-handed weapon with the shield. If I don't need a shield for whatever reason, or if I'm using one-handed weapon for whatever reason, this class might end up being better in Titan. Not quite sure. But I think that's kind of cool. And I don't know if it lets you take multiple of these, or you can only use one. That's not very clear. But it's nice that it just adds it to your armor, I guess. Not quite sure what it does, but I like it. They didn't talk much about weapon swapping and some other stuff. Not quite sure. But let me open up Path to Exile 2 for a minute. I might just do one map right now because it took 3 hours instead of like an hour and a half I thought. So let's go ahead and open up Path to Exile 2. There's supposedly an update today too, right? So I don't know if my game's up to date right now. Let's check it out. I killed off my hardcore characters that died. I deleted them. So I just have this 96 level, Titan right here. They mentioned something about the updates to the other stuff being added in here. So let's go check this out. Dragon Hunter, Vulcan. Okay, they added Divine Paladin in here. And they added this one. Okay. So let me go ahead and turn off my glow. They added some new effects. Turn that off. So let me put on his armor sets they added in here. So I got this one right here. This is the blood set right here. What's this one? Yeah, so I'm going to put on the blood set real quick. And they have... Where's that cross thing at? They had a cross thing back here. I don't see it at the moment. Where is it at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was one that let you put it on your back. There it is. The penance one right here. So this is the set you can buy with PoE 1 right now. Looks pretty good in game. And yeah, so it's like the bleeding one. I like it. Did they add any more weapon skins in here? No. I forget what it came with. Let's get rid of weapon skins. Okay, I got the paladin effect now. And offhand. You can't use this for both. Oh, you can use it for both. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so the drop you got right here, you press K in game if you're here. And you go to, I'm trying to find it real quick. Let me collapse some of these things. You got finisher effects in here somewhere. It doesn't say finisher effects for some reason. Yeah, so you'd get it right here. So the weapon added effect. So now I got this like divine judgment right here. It's pretty cool. I have more than these right here, but it's only showing a few. But anyways. So now I got the divine effect right here. Can I add an effect right here too? Huh. That's kind of cool. When you kill a rare monster, it goes off. Can't use my skill gem effects, so that's not available. Okay, they added these pets right here. Alright, let's go ahead and add these guys. So this is the kit right here that comes with the penance kit. Aspiration, can't use that. I think it's just rare monsters. I don't think unique monsters get the kill effect. And let's go to shop right now. Let's see if they have any sales. Well, the packs is what we're just talking about, right? Supporter packs. I didn't want to click here. But they added, no, they didn't add it here. What do they have for sales? Not much for sale. But you can always go to the Path Exile 1 store. So see these guys right here? Let me pull this up real quick. Open new window. Let's go to Path Exile 1. So the kit I have right now, let me go to shop, buy packs. The kit I bought right there, I bought them both. So I probably spent too much money in this game, but whatever. So you get the Paladin pack right there. And then you have the this laser you get. It's pretty cool. And this is this pack right here. The penance pack. I could add the Trial Master to the hideout, I guess. So anyways, there's that. So if I go back to featured right here, not featured. Let me go back to cosmetics. If I go to my portals right now, I should have more portals available too. Yeah, I got the Zealot of Madness one right here. So we'll try that out. Yeah. So let's just look back in here. I got these two guys who just follow me. They're drinking, it looks like. And let me go to edit right now. Let me go to decorations. Slanius. Okay, put that guy in there. He's my pet. And then there should be... Let me look up trial. I can't look up trial. Hideout item. Ah. There you go. I don't know what he does, but there you go. He keeps track of your chaos orbs, and he keeps track of your battle attempts. Whatever. That's kind of nice. Alright, so let's go to map device. Let's just do a random map right here. Let me clear out my inventory. And I don't really care what I got, so it might be good, might not be. Just getting rid of that for now. The reason I don't care is I'll be playing a different character once League starts.
I used to be like you. Once.
Alright, so let's go ahead and do map device. I should just do this one, Augury. I don't have a map in here actually, so let me grab a map. And so let's go to maps right here. 15. Again, I don't care if I die too much because I have no experience right now and just the league's restarting week. I don't want to pick one like this one's like 40% extra fire, 40% extra cold. And let me move my screen rec here to this one. Yeah, so my guy's right here now. So let's go ahead and see, this one's hard, but not super hard. Let's try it out. So I added the paladin effect to my weapon. Looks kind of cool. I added an effect to my shield, but it doesn't really show that well. But let's go ahead and do Augury. And might die. Let's find out.
One of these days, you ain't gonna.
Then maybe I'll try valve something or figure out. So this is like a portal that comes with it. It's hard to see what it is, but it opens up when you get to it. Yeah, weapon effects are really cool. I'm gonna buy a second one of those, I think. So I can put on 2 weapons or shield. I don't know. I like buying cosmetics.
Feel my wrath.
Okay, I'm not a huge fan of this map, but we'll do it. Alright, start off a breach. I love Warrior. Warrior's so much fun. Again, the monsters do 40% extra damage, so I gotta be careful. Even though I'm relatively tanky, applies elemental stuff too, I believe. Alright, let's go back up here. Yeah. Yep, so I kind of went back full circle. I should go this way now. So that's the problem with Stampede. You can't push people out of your way. But that's fine. Alright, I got a ritual in here. Might as well do the ritual next. And I'll switch to Paladin armor after this too. There's a monster over here, it looks like. Get out of here. Yeah, rituals on this map are not the best. It's too tight. Alright, get some blood elementals. Cool. Got a lever. I don't want like chaos. It's funny just having those two drunk people follow you. Another key thing I heard today was one of the classes will let you use both potions as either mana or life. Yeah, Mr. I'm primarily armor. I mean, my character is really heavy on armor. Gotta watch out for that fire and lightning. I might die right here. Oh, careful about that. Sunder these guys. Cool, cool.
Things used to be much better.
I hate chaos. It's kind of pick a theme and go with it, right? Even though you want to try out other stuff, I agree. Pick your theme and stick to it. Like, I'm Warcry, Rage, Armor, and pretty much physical attack for the most part. So there's more than just that, right? But those are my primary themes. Let's see if this laser starts. Oh, I didn't switch my laser on. Let me put the laser on in a second. I thought I put my laser cosmetic on. It is not on. My laser didn't go off. Okay, so this is new. So I can put my finisher effect for my shield, my finisher effect for my main weapon. So the swords went off because I did my laser effect for my I did a shield bash into him. That's why it didn't go off. So I'm gonna use my Sunder instead. And Stampede to kill him. So I want that laser to go off. No rare dudes over there. Well, let's just go ahead and do the ritual system here. There weren't any rare monsters in this area. No, my sword still went off even with this. That's weird. Alright, I'm gonna turn off the sword. I got a ring. Let's see if it's any good. Probably not.
This was made by a skilled artisan.
Alright, let me go ahead and take these things off right here. Just take, not that one off. Let's just reclaim it. Nothing else I could add here. I mean, I could add that, but I don't want to add that. I do like the weapon glow, though. It's cool. Alright, got speed.
You won't escape!
Okay. Get the lever right here. Let's go in here. This area is always too bright. I don't know if my laser finisher is working right now, actually. Alright, let's drop this. Drop this. I don't see like a laser dropping. It's not working right now. Let's drop this. Yeah, the laser effect, I don't see it dropping from sky, which it should. So the map's complete. So let's go ahead and get, oh, I didn't even check my spirit rewards. Very ritual. Let's check these out. Nothing exciting, all I care about is omens. No omens. Nothing I want, don't care. Let's get out of here. Alright, I'm going to do one more map as the Paladin. And then I'm probably going to get off because I'm going to help my wife with some stuff, right? But I'll probably be back on again tonight. So let me go ahead and change my outfit a little bit. Let's change this to... Let's reclaim this one. Let's put it over here for whatever reason. But Divine Judgment did not look like it was working at all. So now I'm going to do my Paladin skin. Which I think Paladin looks pretty cool. Back attachment. Got a book right there. So you have this bell you take, which vibrates when you do critical hits, but I don't do critical hits. So let's just go ahead and add this. Reminds me of Warhammer a little bit right there. Looks kind of cool. And then... I forgot, I got these things. These are for my hardcore character that died. You just keep track of like your steps and this. So every time you play, you might want to do that. Not quite sure. Let's see if this works with this weapon right here. Yeah, so I get the Paladin effect on the weapon right there. Looks kind of cool. I like that. I like it a lot, actually. Looks cool. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to change my portal effect. Playing a Paladin, so let's use the Paladin-based, thing. Character effect, I don't know if I really want a character effect, but I got blue.
I used to be like you.
The blue effect looks kind of nice. Not really needed, so let's take it off for now. Those ones are nice, but they take up your whole thing. I gotta add a flame. Flame's kind of basic. Looks nice though. But here's the character. And my character is glowing gold because of the skill I have. But yeah, I like this outfit quite a bit. Looks nice. All right, let's go ahead and do another map. So let's do another map right here. 15. Let's just do the kind of basic one. I don't really care right now. Let's do that. And then Fortress. Let's do a mirror map Fortress. Okay. All right, see you, Mr. Blue. Yeah, I'll probably begin on tonight. Maybe 8 or 9. Depends, like, when my wife's mom comes here tonight, whatever. And I make sure I help out the kid too, right? But hey, thanks for joining, Mr. Blue. See you later. And everybody else who's watching, if you haven't done so, I appreciate a like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is. I usually stream every night. It's changed slightly since I have a kid, right? But I'd like to stream nightly. Usually 9 to midnight. But those time schedules will be more solidified pretty soon. I usually don't stream during the day. I'm on paternity leave right now, but they had a special event today, so I figured might as well stream during the day. I don't remember those birds too well. Beetles for sure. Oh, I need to go back. There's a mirror in this map. Let me go back to the beginning. I skipped the mirror. Mirrors are important. Let's go back here. There it is. So I'm trying to keep my rage up. I'm at 31 right now. Because of the 50 something, I believe. 51 maybe. Yeah, 51. Yeah, the new finisher effect's not really working. I already dropped out the map. Might as well kill those dudes. So I pretty much just do a war cry every 2 attacks. And that gets me my maximum damage. Unless there's like no reason to war cry. But do that. Power my attacks. Shield charge in. Let's get that Valor Orb. Let's just smash them. Don't need to be up, but might as well. Yeah, getting the war cry range is really important too. The more people you hit the war cry, the more damage you do. So the new update, I won't be able to get 14s anymore. I was getting 15s when I do 15 maps. Let's drop a hammer. Why not? It's a little crowded right here. Yeah, it shows the laser right there, but it's not doing the explosion. And I don't really care for a strong box. I think my back piece adds those effects when I die. See a bunch of glowing on the ground. Yeah, they like get some like being cursed. Not cursed, but that's a pretty cool effect. I like it. It's like you're absolving them, not of sin, but like you're taking them back. Alright, let's go through the middle area. This will be my last map for now. I should be back on tonight. Might not be. I'd like to do a video recap today too of, you know, what GGD talked about today. I just under him. Charge in. He's dead. I use shield charge usually to close gaps, but there's like one monster, I'll just use shield charge. Easier to aim than is Stampede. Stampede's a really good attack, but it's not precise. But it'll clear out the whole mob like that, right? Stampede's my go-to attack. Alright, so now I got the rare monster showing up. He's dead.
Fortune favors me.
Alright, so way up there and then way over there. Okay. So that's what happens when you have big maps though. Sometimes you have to like backtrack quite a bit, unfortunately. See tier 1, I'm in tier 15 map. It's kind of like okay. Thanks, T1. Alright, let's go ahead and kill the guy top left first. We'll jump on him. Why not? I really like this armor. It looks much better in PoE 2 than PoE 1. Alright, he's dead. He's dead. So there's 2 more rares. There's one way up here somewhere. Yeah, right there, and then we'll look back down. Alright, my rage is down 0. Now it's 6. 12. That's 2. Probably shouldn't have used the rage because when I have over 10, if I use my rampage, not rampage, my shout, Infernal Cry, it uses up 10 rage. So it's better to use when I'm in a big area of bad guys. Or if I'm under 10. Right here is good.
I can't yet.
And does this go to where he's at? No, it doesn't. Let's just keep going. I like that you just have 2 random drunk people follow you.
You won't escape.
Alright, map's complete. Alright, so I'll go back to town. Alright guys, again, if you want to add me as a friend in game, Salty_Titan. I'll have a new character made for next season, but you can add me as a friend in game. I have a guild as well, so you can join that if you want. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff's fun. But I appreciate the watching. I'm gonna get off now because I gotta help out with the baby and stuff. I should be back on tonight. If not, I plan on posting a video summary of what was talked about with GGG today. All right, guys.